Welcome, traveller of the mind. Welcome to this sanctuary of shadow and silence, a place carved out of the velvet night specifically for you. As the physical world begins to fade, receding like a tide pulling back from the shore, I invite you to find your most comfortable position. Let your body sink into the surface beneath you, feeling the gentle pull of gravity not as a weight, but as a warm embrace, anchoring you safely while your spirit prepares to float. The day is done. The noise of the sun has passed. Here, in the quiet observatory of the cosmos, there is no urgency, no deadlines, and no expectations. There is only the rhythm of your own breathing, rising and falling like a slow, dark ocean, and the sound of my voice guiding you toward the stars. Close your eyes and visualize a great vaulted station in the center of your mind. It is night here too. The ceiling is high, arched with iron and glass, revealing a sky dusted with the diamond powder of distant galaxies. The air is cool and still, smelling faintly of old books, polished wood, and the comforting metallic scent of rain on steel. You're waiting for a journey, but not one that requires a ticket or a suitcase. This is a journey of knowledge and peace, a drifting voyage along the iron veins of history. We're going to explore the soothing, rhythmic world of trains, those magnificent mechanical beasts that have carried humanity's dreams across continents, through mountains, and over time itself. So let your shoulders drop, unclench your jaw. Let the tension drain from your fingertips and your toes. Imagine a soft golden light warming your chest, spreading slowly outward, preparing you to receive these stories. We are about to embark on a long, slow ride through the landscape of memory and steam. Let go and listen. Our journey begins not with metal, but with the elements themselves, fire and water, coming together in a slow alchemical dance to create the very first breath of a steam engine. Picture, if you will, the early 19th century, a time when the world moved only as fast as a horse could gallop, or the wind could push a sail. Into this quiet pastoral world comes the concept of the steam locomotive, a machine that mimics the biology of a living creature. Imagine the heavy cold iron of a boiler, vast and hollow. Inside, water is cradled, waiting. Beneath it, a fire is kindled. Visualize the orange and blue flames licking at the metal, the heat transferring through the iron skin, exciting the water molecules until they begin to dance and separate. It creates steam, a white, ghostly force expanding with tremendous pressure, desperate to escape. This is the heartbeat of the train, the piston. Picture the steam rushing into a cylinder, pushing a piston rod with the force of a giant's hand. This linear motion, back and forth, is captured by a connecting rod and transformed into the rotation of a wheel. It is a masterpiece of translation, turning the chaos of boiling water into the order of spinning steel. Think of Richard Trevithick, the Cornish giant of a man who first harnessed this power on rails in 1804. Imagine the sheer weight of that first engine, the smell of coal smoke mixing with the morning mist, the hiss of the steam cocks opening like a sigh of relief. It was slow, cumbersome, and loud, but it was the spark that would ignite the world. Feel the heat radiating from that engine in your mind, a warm, pulsing presence that signifies the beginning of a new era, a rhythmic thumping that matches the beating of your own relaxed heart. As the steam clears from that early experiment, the scene shifts, the fog lifting to reveal a grander, more organised spectacle, the opening of the Liverpool and Manchester Railway in 1830. This was not merely an experiment, it was the birth of the modern railway system, the first time two major cities were linked by an iron road entirely powered by steam. Visualize the crowds, thousands of people dressed in their Sunday best, top hats and bonnets bobbing like a sea of flowers, gathered to witness a miracle. They stand on the grassy embankments, their eyes wide with a mixture of fear and wonder. At the centre of this vision is the rocket, the legendary locomotive designed by Robert Stephenson. Picture its colours: a bright, cheerful yellow chimney and a black barrel standing out against the grey English sky. It won the Rainhill Trials, a competition of speed and reliability, proving that these machines were not just novelties, but the future of travel. Imagine yourself sitting in one of those first carriages. They're open to the air, resembling stagecoaches mounted on iron wheels. The whistle blows, a shrill, bird-like sound that cuts through the chatter of the crowd. You feel the jerk of the coupling as the train begins to move, slowly at first, then picking up a speed that, at the time, felt unfathomably fast, perhaps 20 or 30 miles per hour. The wind rushes against your face, carrying the scent of the countryside and the soot of the engine. You are gliding without the rhythmic trot of horses, a smooth, surreal sensation of floating across the landscape, watching the trees blur into green ribbons, witnessing the dawn of the interconnected world. From the visual spectacle of the early locomotives, we drift deeper into the sensation of the journey itself, focusing now on the sound, the hypnotic lullaby that has put millions of travellers to sleep for nearly 2 centuries. It is the song of the tracks, the rhythmic clickety-clack, clickety-clack. This sound is not accidental. It is a story of physics and temperature told through steel. Visualize the long ribbons of rail laid out upon the wooden sleepers. In the past, these rails could not be welded into one continuous line because steel expands in the heat of the summer and contracts in the cold of the winter. If they were one solid piece, they would buckle and warp under the sun. So, engineers left small gaps between each section of rail, tiny breathing spaces for the metal to expand into. The sound you hear, that comforting heartbeat, is the wheel of the train rolling over these small gaps. Click-clack, the front wheels cross. Click-clack, the rear wheels cross. It creates a meter, a percussion that resonates through the floor of the carriage and into your body. Imagine that sound now. It is steady, predictable, and profoundly grounding. It mimics the rhythm of a mother's heartbeat heard from the womb. Today, many modern rails are continuously welded, smoothed out for silence, but the memory of that rhythm remains etched in our collective consciousness. Imagine you're lying in a bunk, your head resting on a soft pillow, and the vibration of the train travels up through the frame of the bed, a gentle massage for your senses, rocking you, soothing you, the clickety-clack serving as a mantra that whispers, safe, 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 carrying you deeper into relaxation. The rhythm slows and changes texture as we glide from the mechanics of the track into the plush velvet embrace of the most famous train in history, the Orient Express. The very name conjures images of mystery, romance, and unparalleled luxury. Let your mind's eye construct the interior of a dining car from the 1920s. The lighting is low and warm, cast by Art Deco lamps with frosted glass shades shaped like tulips. The walls are panelled in polished mahogany and teak, inlaid with intricate marquetry designs of flowers and geometric shapes, glowing with the deep, rich lustre of French polish. You're seated on a banquette upholstered in the deepest crimson velvet, soft to the touch, sinking slightly as you settle in. On the table before you, heavy crystal glassware catches the light, refracting it into tiny rainbows. The silverware is heavy, solid silver, resting on a crisp white linen tablecloth that is cool under your fingertips. Outside the window, the landscape of Europe drifts by in the moonlight. The vineyards of France, the Alps of Switzerland, the forests of Hungary. But inside, there is only warmth and opulence. The Orient Express was more than a train. It was a rolling palace, a bridge between the West and the East, linking Paris to Istanbul. Imagine the gentle clink of a teacup, the murmur of hushed conversations in glorious languages, the smell of Turkish coffee and expensive perfume. Here, you're insulated from the world, wrapped in a cocoon of elegance, moving effortlessly through the night toward a horizon filled with minarets and morning light. Leaving the velvet luxury of Europe, our spirit floats upward and travels eastward, across the vast, daunting expanse of Russia. to find the longest railway line in the world, the Trans-Siberian Railway. This is a journey of magnitude, a testament to human endurance against the sheer size of the planet. Visualize a line of steel stretching over 5,700 miles, spanning 8 time zones, connecting Moscow in the west to Vladivostok in the east. The landscape here is painted in shades of white, silver, and the deep green of pines. Imagine looking out the window of this train as it trundles endlessly through the Siberian taiga. Mile after mile of birch trees, their white bark peeling like paper, stand as silent sentinels in the snow. The world outside is frozen, a stillness so profound it commands respect. But inside your compartment, it is fiercely warm. There is a samovar at the end of the carriage, a large metal urn constantly boiling water for tea. Picture the steam rising from a glass of hot, dark tea held in a decorative metal holder called a podstakannik. The glass is hot against your palm, sending warmth through your fingers. You watch the sun set over the steppes, a burning red orb dipping below a flat white horizon, casting long blue shadows across the snowdrifts. The journey takes a week, a suspension of time where days and nights blur into a continuous meditation on distance and solitude. You're a tiny, warm spark moving safely through the great, beautiful void, protected by the train, watching the endless cinema of the earth roll by. The snow fades, melting into the sleek, modern concrete of Japan, where we encounter a completely different spirit of the railway, the Shinkansen, or bullet train. If the steam engine is a breathing beast, the Shinkansen is an arrow of pure light. Visualize the Tokaido Shinkansen line, inaugurated in 1964 just in time for the Tokyo Olympics, a symbol of Japan's rebirth and technological prowess. Picture the train itself, the Zero Series, with its iconic rounded nose, resembling the beak of a duck or the nose of an airplane painted a stark, clean white with a strip of blue. The sensation here is not of rocking or clicking, but of gliding. The rails are continuously welded, the curves are banked, and the train moves with a supernatural smoothness, levitating on its suspension. Imagine sitting in a seat that feels like a cloud. You look out the window, and the foreground is a blur of speed, moving at over 130 miles per hour, yet inside, the water in your glass does not even ripple. Silence reigns here. It is a library of motion. In the distance, rising majestically above the urban sprawl and the rice paddies, stands Mount Fuji. Its cone is perfect, capped with snow, a timeless statue watching the white streak of the train flash by. The Shinkansen represents the harmony of nature and engineering, the ability to move with incredible speed while maintaining a center of absolute calm. You feel that efficiency in your own mind now, swift, clean, uncluttered thoughts gliding effortlessly toward a destination of peace. We drift back across the Pacific Ocean now, returning to the rugged, sun-baked landscapes of the American West to witness a moment where the world became smaller, the driving of the Golden Spike. The year is 1869. The location is Promontory Summit, Utah. The air is dry and thin, smelling of sagebrush and dust. For years, 2 massive armies of workers, immigrants from Ireland moving west and immigrants from China moving east, have been blasting tunnels through granite mountains and laying tracks across burning deserts. Visualize the scene. 2 steam locomotives facing each other on a single track, nose to nose like 2 great beasts meeting in a clearing. One is the Jupiter, billowing wood smoke. The other is the Union Pacific No. 119, burning coal. A crowd has gathered in this remote wilderness to watch the final link being forged. The final spike is not made of iron, but of 17.6 carat gold. Imagine the weight of it, the soft yellow luster against the rough wooden tie. A silver hammer is raised. The blow is struck. Clang. The sound rings out across the desert, and simultaneously the telegraph wire connected to the spike sends a signal to the entire world. Done. It was the internet of its time. Suddenly, a journey that took dangerous months in a wagon could be made in safe days. Feel the magnitude of that connection, the sense of unity, the closing of a gap. It is a feeling of completion, like a puzzle piece clicking into place, bringing a satisfying sense of wholeness to your spirit. From the dusty gold of the desert, we travel to the cool, windswept manufacturing halls of Doncaster, England in the 1930s to admire a machine that is as much art as it is engineering, the Mallard. This is not just a train, it is a sculpture designed to slice through the wind. Visualize its casing. Unlike the exposed pipes and boilers of early trains, the Mallard is covered in a sleek aerodynamic shell, a design known as streamlining. But it is the colour that captures your imagination. It is painted a unique, striking shade known as garter blue, a deep, rich blue that seems to shimmer with speed even when standing still. The wheels are painted a bright red, creating a stunning contrast. In 1938, this beautiful blue machine tore down a gentle slope at Stoke Bank and reached 126 miles per hour, a world record for steam traction that still stands today. Imagine the roar of the firebox, the frantic motion of the side rods blurring into a solid sheet of steel, the wind screaming over the smooth blue curve of the nose. Yet, for all its power, the Mallard is beautiful, elegant, a testament to the idea that function and form can be perfect partners. Visualize that flash of blue streaking through the green English countryside, a comet of human ingenuity, leaving a trail of white steam that hangs in the air long after it is gone. The speed of the Mallard slows, the day turns to twilight, and we find ourselves stepping aboard a creation designed not for speed, but for the deepest rest, the Pullman sleeper car. Before George Pullman, sleeping on a train was a rough, uncomfortable affair. He changed the night forever. Picture the interior of a late 19th century Pullman car. It is a sanctuary of heavy curtains and soft bedding. During the day, comfortable seats face each other, but at night the porter, a magician of the railways, transforms the space. The upper berths fold down from the ceiling, and the lower seats slide together to form a flat plush mattress. Crisp white sheets, thick wool blankets, and fluffy pillows are arranged with care. Heavy velvet curtains are drawn across the front of your berth, creating a private, cosy tent within the moving train. Imagine climbing into this small, warm cave. You lie down, the linens cool against your skin. You're in your own private world, yet you're travelling. Outside the window, the world is a negative space of darkness, punctuated by the occasional flash of a passing station light or the distant glow of a farmhouse. You feel the gentle sway of the car, a rocking motion that mimics a cradle. The train whistle blows in the distance, a lonely, comforting sound that says others are awake so you can sleep. It is the ultimate surrender, trusting the train to carry you through the darkness while you drift into the world of dreams. Finally, our journey brings us to the most famous steam locomotive in the world, a celebrity of iron and coal, the Flying Scotsman. Built in 1923, this engine was a giant of the London and North Eastern Railway. Visualise its massive driving wheels standing tall as a man. Picture its livery, a colour so iconic it has its own name, apple green. It is a fresh, vibrant green, outlined with black and white lining gleaming under the station lights. The Flying Scotsman was built for endurance. It became famous for hauling the express train from London to Edinburgh, a distance of 392 miles, without stopping once. To do this, it needed a corridor tender, a special passageway that allowed a new crew to walk from the train into the engine while it was moving, swapping places with the tired driver and fireman. Imagine the dedication of those men, the heat of the footplate, the relentless shovel of coal, keeping the green giant moving north. It travelled the world, visiting America and Australia, a rolling ambassador of the golden age of steam. Seeing it is like seeing an old friend, a reliable, strong presence that endures through the decades. It reminds us that some things are built to last, that the journey continues, steady and true, just like the continuous peaceful flow of your own relaxation, moving you gently, mile after mile, towards a destination of perfect restful sleep. And as that magnificent green engine pulls us forward, commanding the rails with its rhythmic strength, our attention drifts slowly, gently, all the way to the very end of the line. We leave the roar of the firebox and float backward, past the passenger cars, past the freight wagons, until we reach the tail of the comet, the humble, charming silhouette of the caboose. Visualize this small wooden house on wheels, painted a bright, cheerful red, bobbing along at the rear of a long freight train. For over a century, the caboose was the home and office of the train crew, a cozy cabin moving through the wilderness. Imagine stepping inside. It is a compact, self-contained world. In the centre sits a cast-iron potbelly stove, glowing with a soft orange warmth. A coffee pot sits atop it, the dark liquid bubbling, filling the small space with the rich, roasted scent of coffee and wood smoke. You sit in the cupola, the small lookout tower protruding from the roof. From this elevated perch, you are surrounded by windows, offering a panoramic view of the trains snake winding ahead of you and the tracks receding behind. You are the guardian of the rear, watching the landscape close up after the train's passing. There is a profound sense of safety here, tucked away at the end, warmed by the stove, rocking gently with a motion that is more pronounced, more playful than the heavy engines ahead. The caboose is a reminder that even in a world of industrial iron, there was a place for domestic comfort, a small floating cottage moving endlessly towards the horizon. From the open air of the American railroads, we descend now, sinking deep beneath the surface of the earth into the cool, tiled embrace of the world's first underground railway, the London Underground. Let the darkness wrap around you like a heavy blanket as we enter the tube. The year is 1863. Imagine the feat of engineering required to burrow beneath a bustling Victorian city. Workers, moving by the light of flickering candles and gas lamps, dug through the clay of London to create these subterranean arteries. Visualize the unique, rounded shape of the tunnels, formed by segments of iron that curve to hold back the weight of the city above. As you stand on a platform, perhaps at Baker Street, you notice the walls. They are not bare concrete, but canvases of ceramic art. Picture the glossy, cream-coloured tiles, cool to the touch, reflecting the soft electric light. You hear a low rumble in the distance, a sound that is felt in the soles of your feet before it is heard with your ears. A rush of air pushes through the tunnel, pushing your hair back, the train's breath announcing its arrival. It emerges from the dark tunnel like a worm of light. The doors slide open with a pneumatic hiss. Inside, the seats are upholstered in a heavy, durable fabric with intricate geometric patterns, moquette, designed to hide the wear of millions of travellers. As the train accelerates, the sound is a high-pitched whine and a rhythmic clatter, a sound that echoes off the curved walls. You're travelling through the hidden veins of the city, safe in a capsule of light, moving beneath the roots of trees and the foundations of history. We rise from the tunnels of London, ascending not just to the surface, but into a cathedral of transportation, Grand Central Terminal in New York City. This is not merely a station, it is a temple dedicated to the journey. Visualize yourself standing in the main concourse. The space is vast, cavernous, the floor made of smooth, cool Tennessee marble that clicks sharply under the heels of travellers. But your eyes are drawn upward, irresistibly, to the ceiling. There, arching high above the commotion of the crowd, is a teal blue sky painted with real gold leaf. It is a mural of the zodiac, the constellations of the winter sky frozen in time. Pegasus, Orion, Taurus. They look down upon the commuters, a reminder of the cosmic scale of the universe even within a train station. There is a stillness in the air here, despite the movement of people, a hush created by the sheer volume of the space. In the centre of the floor stands the information booth, topped by a four-faced clock. The faces are made of precious opal, glowing with a soft, milky light worth millions, yet its purpose is simply to tell the time. Sunlight streams through the massive arched windows, visible beams of light dancing with dust motes, illuminating the station in a golden haze. You feel small here, but not insignificant. You're part of a great flow of humanity, all gathering under the stars of a painted sky, waiting for the next departure in this palace of stone and light. Leaving the urban grandeur of New York, we transport our spirit to the crisp, thin air of the Swiss Alps, boarding a train that invites us to slow down completely, the Glacier Express. Often called the slowest express train in the world, this journey is not about reaching a destination, but about witnessing the majesty of the earth. Visualize the train itself. It is bright red, a vivid slash of colour against a world of white snow and grey granite. The carriage you're in is almost entirely glass. The windows do not stop at the walls. They curve upward, forming part of the roof, opening the cabin to the sky. You're sitting in a bubble of transparency. Outside, the landscape is a masterpiece of verticality. Massive peaks, dusted with powdered sugar snow, rise thousands of feet above you. The train moves slowly, laboriously, climbing steep gradients using a rack and pinion system, a cogwheel that grips a toothed rail in the centre of the track. You feel the gears locking in, a secure mechanical embrace that pulls you higher and higher. You cross the Landwasser Viaduct, a high, curving stone bridge that seems to grow naturally out of the sheer cliff face. Looking down, you see a frozen river far below, a ribbon of turquoise ice. The silence of the mountains permeates the glass. You're warm, sipping a hot chocolate, while inches away, the world is locked in a deep, beautiful freeze. The slow pace allows your eyes to trace every pine tree, every icicle, drifting through the Alps like a cloud on rails. From the solid stone of the mountains, we drift toward a vision of the future that hovers above the ground, the suspended monorail. Specifically, let us float to the town of Wuppertal in Germany to witness the Schwebebahn. Imagine a railway that does not run on the ground but hangs from the sky. A massive steel framework, like the spine of a dragon, arches over the Wupper River. The train cars hang beneath this rail, suspended by sturdy wheels on the roof. As the train moves, it does not rattle, it swings. Visualize the sensation of riding in a carriage that gently sways from side to side like a pendulum or a cradle. You're floating above the city, gliding over the dark, rushing water of the river below, passing between the rooftops of houses. It is a dreamlike perspective, looking down on the streets and the cars. The wheels are rubber-tired, making the movement quiet, a soft hum rather than a clatter. This is a mode of travel that feels like flight, a levitation that defies gravity. The train banks into a turn, and you tilt with it, a graceful, fluid motion that feels entirely natural. It is a retro-futuristic dream come true, a steampunk vision of a city where traffic simply glides overhead, leaving the ground undisturbed, carrying you smoothly through the air. We descend from the air to the ancient red earth of the southern hemisphere, boarding a train that crosses an entire continent, the Ghan in Australia. This is a journey through the red centre, a pilgrimage across the vast, arid heart of the outback. The train is a silver serpent, stretching nearly a kilometre long, shimmering in the intense heat. Visualise the landscape outside your window. It is a study in colour. The earth is not just brown, it is a deep, rich ochre, a rusted red that glows as if burning from within. The sky is a vast, domed ceiling of piercing, impossible blue. Against the red earth you see the dusty green of spinifex grass and the ghostly white limbs of gum trees. The Ghan follows the path of the Afghan cameleers who once navigated this desert, carrying goods on the backs of camels. The train is their steel successor. Inside, the air conditioning keeps the desert heat at bay, creating a cool oasis. You watch the sun begin to set and the colours transform. The red earth turns to purple, then to deep indigo. The sky bleeds into orange and pink before surrendering to a velvet blackness filled with more stars than you have ever seen. You're crossing a land that feels older than time, a silent, empty expanse where the only movement is the steady, unstoppable progress of the train, carrying you safely through the wilderness. As the desert night deepens, we shift our focus from the tracks below to the power above, the invisible crackling energy of electrification. In the early 20th century, the smoke and steam began to give way to the clean, silent power of the wire. Visualize the overhead lines, the catenary system, a complex web of copper wire suspended in the air, tracing the path of the track like a metallic spiderweb. On top of the locomotive sits the pantograph, a diamond-shaped or single-arm frame that reaches up to touch the wire. Picture the contact point. It is a delicate kiss between the moving train and the stationary wire. Sometimes, in the damp of the night or the frost of winter, you can see a spark, a brilliant electric blue flash that snaps and sizzles, a momentary star born from the friction. This is the transfer of pure energy. The train does not need to carry its own fuel, it draws it from the grid, making it lighter, faster and quieter. There is no chugging piston here, only a rising hum, a sound like a choir of machines singing in harmony. The electric train glides with a seamless linear acceleration. You feel a smooth, constant pull, a surge of power that is instantaneous. It is the feeling of modernity, of efficiency, of a clean, invisible force propelling you forward into the future without a whisper of smoke. This silent power glides us toward the southern tip of Africa, where we find a train that redefined the concept of a rolling hotel, the Blue Train. If the Orient Express is the old world parlour, the Blue Train is the modern penthouse suite. Visualize the exterior, a deep royal blue that matches the ocean, winding its way from Pretoria to Cape Town. But it is the interior that commands your relaxation. Imagine a suite on a train that features a full-sized bathtub. Picture this. You're submerged in warm, soapy water, the scent of lavender steam rising around you. The water sways gently, rhythmically, with the motion of the train. You look out the window next to the tub, and instead of a station platform, you see the untamed beauty of the African savanna. Perhaps you catch a glimpse of a herd of antelope grazing in the golden grass, or the distant silhouette of a giraffe against the horizon. You're naked and vulnerable, yet completely protected in your blue steel shell, bathing while moving at 50 miles per hour. Afterwards you dress and move to the lounge car, sinking into a leather armchair as the train approaches the vineyards of the Cape. The sun is warm on the glass, the wine in your glass is golden, and the world outside is a moving painting of wild beauty, viewed from the ultimate sanctuary of comfort. The silence of the savannah is broken now, not by a roar, but by a song, the haunting melodic language of the train whistle. In the era of steam, the whistle was not just a noise, it was a code, a voice. Visualize the brass whistle mounted on top of the steam dome near the safety valves. The engineer pulls a cord, releasing steam through the aperture. The sound is organic, breathy, and musical. It changes pitch as the train moves past you, the Doppler effect, starting high and urgent as it approaches, and dropping to a lower, mournful note as it travels away. Ew. It is a sound that evokes instant nostalgia. There is a language to it. 2 long blasts for releasing the brakes and moving forward, 3 short blasts when reversing. But the most famous is the crossing signal. 2 long, 1 short, 1 long. Whoo, 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 whoo. Imagine lying in bed in a house miles away from the tracks. It is deep night. The silence is absolute. Then, faintly, carried on the wind, you hear that distant, lonely cry. It is a comforting reminder that the world is still working, that travellers are moving through the dark while you rest. It is a lullaby of industry, a sound that says, I am coming, I am passing, I am gone, leaving the silence even deeper than before. Finally, the track ends at the foot of a steep mountain, where the rails tilt upward at a dizzying angle, transforming into a funicular. This is a railway that conquers gravity through balance. Visualize the scene: two small cars perched on a steep slope, connected by a strong steel cable that runs through a pulley at the very top of the mountain. They are twins, inextricably linked. As one car descends, its weight helps pull the other car up. It is a dance of counterweights, a perfect equilibrium. You step into the ascending car. The seats are tiered like a staircase so you remain level even as the floor tilts. The doors close, and with a gentle lurch you begin to rise. Slowly, steadily, the world below begins to drop away. The rooftops of the town become small squares. The people become ants. The horizon expands, revealing lakes, valleys, and distant peaks that were hidden just moments ago. The ride is slow and hypnotic, a steady crawl against the pull of the earth. You can hear the hum of the cable and the click of the wheels on the inclined track. There is a sense of being lifted, of rising above the worries of the flat world below, ascending toward the clouds with a mechanical grace, higher and higher, until you reach the summit, where the air is clear and the view is infinite. And from that lofty summit, where the air is thin and the world below seems like a patchwork quilt of greens and greys, we begin a gentle descent, winding our way down through the clouds on a different kind of path. We shrink our focus now, moving from the grand, continental conquerors to the intimate, charming world of the narrow-gauge railway. Visualize a track where the rails are set closer together, sometimes only 2 feet apart. These are not the heavy highways of commerce, but the wandering trails of the mountains and the forests. Because the rails are narrow, the trains can turn tighter corners, hugging the contours of the land like a vine growing on a trellis. Imagine yourself on the Darjeeling Himalayan Railway, the toy train of India. The engine is small, painted a bright, playful blue, puffing with a distinct, energetic rhythm. It does not cut through the landscape, it negotiates with it. You're travelling through a lush, emerald forest of tea plantations. The train moves slowly, perhaps no faster than a person running, allowing you to reach out and almost touch the rhododendrons blooming by the track. The steam from the little engine drifts back, mixing with the mist of the mountains and the scent of damp earth. It feels personal, cozy, like a secret path known only to a few. The carriage is small, the wooden benches worn smooth by generations of travellers. As you loop around the agony point, a curve so tight the train seems to chase its own tail, you realise that power does not always mean size. Sometimes it means the agility to find a way through the steepest hills, a gentle, determined climbing that rocks you softly, side to side, in a cradle of blue steel. The winding path of the narrow gauge straightens out as we leave the dense forests and approach a wide, gaping valley, a chasm that would stop a lesser machine in its tracks. Here, we witness the marriage of Roman architecture and industrial engineering, the viaduct. Visualise the Glenfinnan Viaduct in Scotland, a sweeping curve of concrete and stone comprising 21 distinct arches. It is a grey ribbon floating in the air, supporting the iron road high above the river below. To build this, men had to stack stone upon stone, creating a rhythm of empty space and solid matter. Imagine the train rolling onto this structure. The sound changes instantly. The solid, earthy thud of the ground is replaced by a hollow, echoing rumble that resonates through the valley floor. Rumble, rumble, rumble. If you were standing in the valley looking up, the train would look like a toy moving across a mantelpiece. But from inside, looking out, you are flying. There is no ground beneath the window, only a 100-foot drop to the heather and the stream. You feel a sense of suspension, a breathless moment where gravity is defied by the perfect geometry of the arch. The train curves gracefully, allowing you to look out the window and see the engine far ahead, pulling the carriages around the bend. It is a moment of pure cinema, a fluid motion through the sky that feels grand, triumphant, and yet perfectly stable, held aloft by the silent strength of the arches. After the exposure of the high bridge and the long journey, the engine grows tired. It needs a place to rest, a sanctuary to cool its iron bones. We drift now into the cathedral of the railway, the roundhouse. Visualize a massive circular building built of red brick with a slate roof that slopes gently outward. In the centre of this circle lies the turntable, a bridge that can rotate 360 degrees. This is where the steam giants come to sleep. Imagine the smell here, a thick, comforting perfume of heavy grease, coal dust, wet ash, and old timber. It is a dark, cool space, illuminated by shafts of sunlight piercing through dusty skylights, creating beams that dance with floating particles. You watch as a locomotive rolls slowly onto the turntable. It hisses gently, letting out the last of its steam. Then, the table begins to turn. The massive weight of the engine is balanced perfectly on a central pivot, spinning slowly, gracefully, until it lines up with an empty bay. It rolls backward into its stall, joining the other engines resting in the shadows. They look like beasts in a stable, their fires dropped, their metal cooling, clicking softly as they contract. There is a profound sense of peace here, a feeling of work done. It is a place of maintenance and care, where the machines are wiped down, oiled, and prepared for the next day's journey, sleeping safely in the circle of the roundhouse. Before the engine can rest, however, it must quench its thirst. We shift our focus to the lifeline of the steam age, the water tower. Beside every major track and station stood these wooden or steel sentinels, holding thousands of gallons of water high in the air. Visualize a wooden tank, bound with iron hoops, weathered to a silvery grey by the sun and rain. The train pulls up beneath the spout, a large canvas or leather hose that hangs down like an elephant's trunk. The fireman climbs onto the tender, the car behind the engine that holds the coal and water, and pulls the chain. Imagine the sound, a rush of cool, clear water, a torrent cascading down the chute and splashing into the hollow metal belly of the tender. It is a refreshing sound, like a waterfall in the middle of a desert. You can smell the wet wood and the minerals in the water. It is a moment of pause in the journey, a necessary stillness. The steam engine consumes water voraciously to create its power, and this act of refilling is a reminder of its biological nature. It needs to drink. Watching the water spill over the top, glistening in the sun, you feel a sympathetic sense of hydration and relief, a cool wash that cleanses away the heat and dust of the long road. But not all trains have the time to stop. For the express trains, the greyhounds of the rail, stopping for water was a delay they could not afford. And so, we witness a feat of dynamic hydroengineering, the water trough. Developed in the mid-19th century, these were long, shallow pans of water laid directly between the rails, stretching for hundreds of yards. Visualize the scene. The train is thundering along at 60 miles per hour. It does not slow down. Under the tender, the fireman lowers a scoop, a metal mouth designed to catch the water. As the train hits the trough, the water is forced violently up the scoop by the sheer speed of the locomotive. Imagine the spray. A wall of white water wings out from the sides of the train, washing the windows of the carriages with a sudden percussive hiss. Whoosh. Inside the tender, thousands of gallons of water are flooding in within seconds. It requires nerve and perfect timing. Too slow, and the water won't climb the pipe. Too fast, and the spray could damage the train. It is a moment of violent interaction between liquid and steel, a magic trick where the train drinks from the ground without ever breaking its stride. You feel the exhilaration of that splash, a sudden burst of energy and refreshment that propels the journey forward without a pause. From the rushing water, we turn to another element that the train must conquer, the deep, silent snow of winter. When the blizzard howls and the tracks are buried under 6 feet of white drifts, the standard engine is helpless. Enter the monster of the north, the rotary snowplow. This is not a plough in the traditional sense. It is a wall of spinning steel blades. Visualize a massive wheel at the front of the train, filled with sharp, angled blades, resembling a giant fan or the intake of a jet engine. It is pushed from behind by powerful locomotives. As it engages the snowbank, the wheel spins furiously. It bites into the drift, chewing up the ice and snow and hurling it through a chute at the top, casting it far to the side in a spectacular white arc. Imagine the sight: a fountain of snow rising 50 feet into the air, a blizzard created by a machine to fight a blizzard. The sound is a deep, churning roar, a grinding of ice against metal. Inside the cab it is warm and loud, a capsule of defiance against the elements. The train carves a canyon through the white landscape, leaving clean, black rails in its wake. It is a feeling of unstoppable force, a reassurance that no matter how deep the cold, the way will be cleared, the line will be opened, and the journey will continue. The storm clears, the track is open, and we come to a stop at a quiet country station. Here, removed from the noise of the main line, we find the brain of the operation, the signal box. This is a small 2-story building standing tall beside the track, often built of brick and glass. Climb the wooden stairs to the operating room on the top floor. It is a sanctuary of order and mechanical precision. Dominating the room is the lever frame, a long row of tall iron levers, painted in bright specific colours: red for stop signals, black for points, blue for locks. They stand like soldiers in a line. The signalman, a guardian of safety, wraps a cloth around the polished steel handle and pulls. Clack thunk. The sound is heavy and satisfying. It is the sound of a decision being made. Under the floorboards, rods and wires move, stretching out for hundreds of yards to physically move a piece of track or raise a semaphore arm. The room smells of floor polish, brass cleaner, and the kerosene of the lamps. A kettle is always boiling on a small stove in the corner. There is a profound quiet here, interrupted only by the ticking of the block clock and the ringing of a bell code from the next station. It is a place of solitary responsibility, where safety is crafted by hand, one lever at a time, ensuring that every train has a clear and protected path. In the quiet warmth of that station, there is often another resident, far less concerned with schedules and levers. We look down to find the softest soul of the railway, the station cat. For generations, cats have made their homes in the nooks and crannies of stations, initially employed to keep the mice away from grain sacks, but eventually becoming mascots of comfort. Visualize a calico cat, curled into a perfect circle on a wooden bench in a sunbeam. The station is bustling with commuters, footsteps echoing, announcements blaring, but the cat is unmoved. She's the anchor of calm in a sea of motion. Her fur is thick and soft, dusted with the faint, earthy scent of the station garden. Occasionally a traveller stops to stroke her head. She stretches, extending her claws into the wood, and offers a low, vibrating purr that rivals the engine of any diesel locomotive. There was even a station master cat in Japan named Tama, who wore a tiny hat and greeted passengers. But even the anonymous cats bring a sense of home to these transient places. To see a cat sleeping soundly as a train thunders by is to understand the ultimate form of relaxation, the ability to find peace and safety in the midst of the journey, trusting completely that the world will turn without your help. While the cat sleeps, the work of the world goes on, specifically in the dark hours of the early morning. We drift now into the rhythmic, shuffling world of the night mail. Before email and instant messaging, the fastest way to send a thought was the travelling post office, TPO. Visualize a carriage with no windows, illuminated by bright yellow electric bulbs. Inside, one side of the car is a wall of pigeonholes, hundreds of small wooden boxes. A line of men stands swaying with the motion of the train, balancing perfectly on the moving floor. They are sorting letters, their hands moving in a blur. Flip, flip, thud, flip, flip, thud. It is a mesmerising percussion. They are reading addresses and tossing envelopes into the correct slots. London, Manchester, Glasgow, York. The train is moving at 70 miles per hour through the sleeping countryside. but inside there is an intense rhythmic focus. Outside, hanging from the side of the coach, is a net. As the train rushes past a collection point, the net snaps out, catching a leather pouch of mail hanging from a trackside standard. Whack! And simultaneously dropping a bag of sorted mail. It is a seamless exchange, a connection made in the dark. The night mail is a rolling poem of connection, carrying the letters of lovers, the checks of businesses, and the news of families, sorting the chaos of human communication into order, while the senders and recipients are fast asleep. Finally, we walk through the length of the train, past the sleeping compartments, past the mail sorters, until we reach the very end, the last car on the train, the observation car. This is the place for reflection. In the golden age of rail travel, this car often had a boat tail, a rounded, tapered end with large curved windows resembling the stern of a ship. Visualize yourself sitting in a plush armchair facing backward. You're not looking at where you're going, you're watching where you have been. The scene outside is hypnotic. You watch the twin silver rails unwinding from beneath the train, two parallel lines that seem to merge into one in the infinite distance. The wooden ties blur into a continuous ladder. The landscape recedes, shrinking away. The chaos of the station, the noise of the city, the height of the mountain, it all fades into the past, getting smaller and smaller until it disappears. There is a profound melancholy and beauty here. It is the visual sensation of letting go. As the tracks vanish into the twilight, you feel your own worries receding with them, left behind on the ballast, while you remain safe, warm, and moving forward. The rhythm of the wheels is loudest here, directly beneath you, a final, steady lullaby that whispers, "It is done, it is past, it is over," allowing you to drift into the present moment of absolute peace. And as the tracks merge into a single shimmering point in the distance, fading like a memory into the twilight, you turn away from the glass of the observation car. You move slowly back through the train, the floor humming gently beneath your feet, guiding you toward a different kind of sensory satisfaction. The air begins to change, growing warmer and richer, carrying the savoury promise of sustenance. You've arrived at the dining car. Visualize this space as a floating restaurant, a masterpiece of hospitality suspended in motion. The tables are draped in linen so white and crisp they seem to glow, creating a stark, clean contrast against the polished wood of the walls. Heavy silver cutlery rests on the cloth, dense and cool to the touch, vibrating ever so slightly with the rhythm of the rails. Imagine the waiter, a figure of impossible grace, pouring wine into a crystal glass while the train rounds a bend at 60 miles per hour. The liquid swirls but does not spill. It is a ballet of physics and service. The smell here is divine, a mixture of roasting coffee, seared steak and fresh bread, wafting from the small, frantic galley kitchen hidden behind a swinging door. You take a seat, the leather bench creaking softly. Outside the window, the world is a dark blur, but here in the golden circle of the table lamp there is only the intimacy of the meal. Eating on a train is a unique experience. The landscape becomes your dinner companion. You take a sip of soup, feeling the warmth spread through your chest, grounded by the heavy ceramic bowl, while the scenery rushes by like a moving tapestry. It is a moment of civilized indulgence, a reminder that the journey itself is the destination, a place where time is measured not in minutes, but in courses, savoured slowly as the miles roll away. Moving through the dining car, you catch the eye of a figure who represents the authority and the order of this moving world, the conductor. He is the captain of the landship, a guardian in a uniform of navy blue wool, adorned with brass buttons that catch the light like small golden eyes. Visualize the texture of that uniform, heavy, durable, commanding respect. On his head sits a peaked cap, the brim pulled low, framing eyes that have seen 1,000 stations and 1,000,000 faces. In his vest pocket, secured by a gold chain, sits a pocket watch. Imagine the weight of it in his hand, the smooth, cool metal casing. He flips it open with a practiced thumb, click, checking the time against the schedule with obsessive precision. The face of the watch is white porcelain, the black numerals stark and clear. He is the keeper of the rhythm, ensuring that the chaotic flow of humanity aligns with the rigid structure of the steel rails. As he walks down the aisle, he reaches out to steady himself on the seat backs, a movement born of years spent balancing against the sway. His presence is a comfort, a signal that someone is in charge, that the train is under a watchful eye, and that you are safe to close your eyes and drift, knowing that the course is set and the time is kept. The conductor pauses at your seat not to disturb your rest, but to validate your journey. He asks for your token of passage, the ticket. Before the era of digital codes and screens, the ticket was a tangible artifact, a small rectangular talisman of travel. Visualize the Edmondson railway ticket, a standard invention from the 1840s that lasted for over a century. It is a small piece of card, roughly the size of 2 postage stamps, thick and stiff. Feel the texture of the cardboard between your thumb and forefinger. It is rough, fibrous, and substantial. The colour tells a story, perhaps a pale pink for first class, a slate blue for second, or a buff yellow for third. Printed on the front in bold black serif type are the names of the departure and arrival stations, a promise of a journey from point A to point B. The conductor produces a heavy steel punch, click chunk. He punches a hole in the card, a satisfying tactile sound that marks the ticket as used. That tiny confetti circle falls to the floor, a discarded second of time. Holding that ticket, you hold a contract, a physical permission slip to leave your old life behind and be carried somewhere new. It is a small object, but it carries the weight of anticipation, a key that unlocks the door to the horizon. The ticket dictates the destination, but the path itself is determined by a marvel of mechanical decision-making, the railroad switch, or points. Visualize the tracks ahead of the locomotive, splitting like the fork of a river or the veins in a leaf. This is where the train decides its future. The mechanism involves a pair of tapered steel rails, known as switchblades, which can be moved laterally to direct the wheels. Imagine the sheer weight of these steel components. They are not light, they are massive girders of iron. Yet, with the pull of a lever in a signal box or the hum of an electric motor, they slide smoothly, silently, locking into position against the stock rail with a dull, heavy thud. It is a binary choice made manifest in metal, left or right, this way or that way. The flange of the wheel catches the new rail, and the entire mass of the train, hundreds of tons of steel and humanity, is gently diverted onto a new course. There is a beauty in this precision, a reassurance that the path is not random. The track is prepared for you. The decisions have been made long before you arrived. You can feel the slight lurch in your seat as the train crosses the points, a momentary lateral shimmy that signifies a change in direction, a physical confirmation that you're being guided safely toward your specific harbour. Supporting these rails, and indeed the entire weight of the journey, is a humble, often overlooked foundation, the ballast. Look down at the tracks in your mind's eye. The rails do not sit on the bare earth. They rest on a thick raised bed of jagged stones. These are not smooth river pebbles. They are crushed granite or limestone, grey and sharp-edged. Visualize the texture of this stone sea. The sharp edges are necessary. They lock together under pressure, creating a solid, immovable mass that holds the wooden ties in place. If the stones were round, they would slide over each other like marbles and the track would warp. The ballast is a master of drainage, allowing the rain to pass through so the wood does not rot. But for the listener, the ballast is the creator of sound. When you walk along a track, the stones crunch and shift beneath your boots, a distinct, gritty sound. When the train passes over, the ballast absorbs the vibration, muffling the roar of the wheels into a lower, earthier rumble. It is the bed upon which the dream of travel rests, a million tiny stones working together to support the great iron road, a silent grey army bearing the weight of your sleep. Resting atop this bed of stone, connecting one rail to the next, is a small but critical piece of hardware, the fish plate. Before the days of continuous welding, rails were manufactured in fixed lengths. To join them, engineers used a metal bar bolted to the side of the rail ends. Visualize this joint. It is a handshake between two sections of steel. There are 4 heavy bolts, rusted to a deep warm orange, holding the plate tight against the rail web. But look closer. There is a tiny gap between the 2 rail ends. This gap is the breathing room for the metal. In the heat of the summer, the steel expands and the gap closes. In the cold of the winter, the steel contracts and the gap widens. The fish plate holds them in line while allowing this movement. This humble joint is the conductor of the train's rhythm. Every time a wheel rolls over that tiny gap, it drops and rises a fraction of an inch, creating the click-clack sound that is the heartbeat of the railway. It is the sound of imperfection, of a gap bridged, a rhythmic reminder of the connection between the parts. Without the fish plate, the line would be broken. With it, the separate pieces become a whole, singing a song of continuity as you drift further into relaxation. The rhythm of the fish plate suddenly changes, the sound changing from an open clatter to a hollow rushing roar. The light from the windows is extinguished instantly. We have entered the tunnel. This is the moment where the train burrows into the subconscious of the earth. Visualize the transition. One moment, green fields and blue skies. The next, absolute, enveloping darkness. The air pressure shifts. Your ears pop gently, and the smell changes to damp brick, soot, and the cool, mineral scent of subterranean rock. If you look at the window, you no longer see the world. You see only the reflection of the carriage interior, floating in a void. You're suspended in a capsule of light moving through the solid mountain. The walls of the tunnel rush by, inches from the glass, a blur of grey soot and wet brickwork. There is a feeling of secrecy here, of travelling through a hidden passage. The whistle blows, and the sound does not travel away. It bounces back instantly, a sharp, echoing shriek that fills the dark space. It is a sensory deprivation tank on a grand scale, a pause in the visual narrative of the journey. In the tunnel, there is no time, only motion. You're wrapped in the mountain's embrace, protected by tons of rock, waiting for the inevitable, blinding return of the light. The train bursts from the tunnel into the sunlight, and the sudden brightness illuminates a different kind of car, one that speaks of simplicity and wanderlust, the boxcar. We leave the plush velvet of the passenger coaches and float back to the freight line. Visualize a rectangular wooden box on wheels, painted a faded, peeling barn red. The sliding door in the centre is pushed wide open, revealing a square of sunlight dancing on the dusty floorboards. This is the classic image of the drifter, the hobo, the free spirit riding the rails. Imagine sitting in that open doorway, your legs dangling over the edge, watching the gravel blur beneath your boots. There is no glass between you and the world. The wind rushes in, smelling of pine needles and drying hay. Inside, the boxcar is cavernous and empty, smelling of old straw and sawdust. Dust motes dance in the shafts of light. It is a space of potential, a blank canvas. There are no seats, no schedules, no conductors asking for tickets. There is only the wooden floor, the rhythmic rattle of the frame, and the panoramic movie of the American West rolling by. It is the ultimate feeling of freedom, rough, unpolished, and wildly open, an invitation to simply be without destination or demand. As the heavy freight train rumbles on, we focus on a much smaller, more intimate way to travel the rails, a machine powered not by steam or diesel, but by human muscle, the handcar. Also known as a pump trolley, this is the seesaw of the tracks. Visualize a small, flat wooden platform with 4 iron wheels sitting low to the ground. In the centre stands a vertical handle that rocks back and forth. Two people stand on the platform facing each other. As one pushes down, the other pulls up. Pump, 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 pump. It is a rhythmic physical dance. You can feel the resistance of the lever, the direct connection between your effort and the motion. The wind is in your hair, and the track is right there, feet below you. There is no engine noise, only the clack-clack of the wheels and the metallic squeak of the fulcrum. It is a quiet, solitary way to inspect the line. You're exposed to the elements, moving at a jogging pace, intimately connected to the geography of the railway. It represents a simpler time, a harmony between man and machine, where the journey is earned with a steady, rhythmic motion that mirrors the beating of a runner's heart. Finally, the motion slows, the pumping stops, and the noise fades away entirely. We find ourselves standing before a track that has gone silent, the abandoned line. In the 1960s, many branch lines were closed, leaving the rails to return to the earth. This is not a sad place. It is a place of profound, reclaiming peace. Visualize a pair of rusty rails, orange and flaky, disappearing into a tunnel of green leaves. The wooden sleepers are soft and mossy, sinking into the soil. Nature is taking the railway back. Wildflowers, yellow goldenrod, purple thistles, and white daisies grow tall between the tracks, their stems brushing against the rusted iron. Saplings push up through the ballast. The air is still, filled with the buzzing of bees and the song of birds, sounds that were once drowned out by the steam whistle. Sunlight filters through the canopy of trees that have grown over the line, creating a dappled cathedral light. It is the ghost train of memory. Walking here, you feel a deep sense of rest. The work is done. The urgency is gone. The iron road has become a garden path, leading nowhere but into the quiet heart of the forest, inviting you to stop moving, to sit on a mossy sleeper, and to rest in the stillness of a journey completed. And while the rusted rails of the abandoned line sink slowly back into the moss and the earth, becoming one with the forest floor, our gaze lifts upward, following the path of the tall, weathered sentinels that still stand guard beside the track, the telegraph poles. For a century, the railway and the telegraph were inseparable twins, the iron road carrying the body and the copper wire carrying the mind. Visualize the wires themselves, 3 or 4 distinct lines etched against the pale blue sky. As the train moves, these wires perform a hypnotic visual dance. They dip low between the poles and then swoop upward as they reach the insulator, rising and falling in a perpetual silent wave. It is a visual rhythm that matches the auditory rhythm of the wheels. Swoop, rise, swoop, rise. Imagine the sound of the wind playing through these wires on a lonely stretch of prairie. It creates a hum, an aeolian harp singing a low, mournful note that travels for miles. These wires carried the pulses of the world, the news of wars, the prices of grain, the arrivals of loved ones, encoded in the staccato language of dots and dashes. To watch them pass by from a train window is to watch the physical manifestation of connection, a copper thread stitching the horizon together, humming with the invisible energy of 1,000 silent conversations. Our attention travels down from the singing wires, past the heavy iron rail to the dark, solid foundation that holds the entire system in place, the wooden sleeper, or tie. Before the age of concrete, the world's railways were laid upon millions of logs, hewn from the mightiest oaks, jarrahs, and teaks. Visualize the texture of a railway tie that has been in service for decades. It is rough, splintered, and dark, almost black, soaked in a preservative called creosote. Summon that scent into your mind now. It is a thick, tarry, chemical smell, pungent and earthy, often triggered by the heat of the summer sun beating down on the tracks. For many, this is the definitive perfume of the railway. It smells of industry and permanence. Observe the grain of the wood, the deep cracks and fissures that map the years of heavy trains rolling overhead. Embedded in the wood are the iron spikes, their heads rusted and driven deep, gripping the rail with a tenacity that defies the vibration. These sleepers are the silent martyrs of the line, buried in the stone ballast, absorbing the weight and the shock so that your journey remains smooth. They are the organic roots of the mechanical tree, grounding the flight of the train in the biology of the forest. Following the line of sleepers, we come to the point where one carriage ends and another begins, witnessing the iron handshake that holds the train together, the coupler. In the early days, cars were joined by simple chains, a dangerous and slack connection that caused violent jerking. But then came the Janny coupler, a design that mimics the human hand. Visualize your own hand, fingers curled into a hook. Now imagine another hand gripping it. This is the knuckle coupler. It is a massive casting of solid steel, heavy and cold. When two train cars are pushed together, the knuckles slide past each other and then snap shut. Clunk. It is a sound of absolute finality, a metallic thud that resonates through the frame of the car. There is a profound sense of security in this connection. It is not a rigid bond. There is a little play, a little slack, allowing the train to snake around curves without braking. But when the engine pulls, the tension tightens the grip, turning the separate cars into a single, unified entity. To watch a train pull away is to see this chain of steel hands tighten one by one, a ripple of tension travelling down the line, pulling you gently but firmly toward the future. We step over this coupling now, moving from the safety of one car to the next, entering the shifting liminal space of the vestibule. This is the small, enclosed accordion section that connects the passenger coaches. Walking through here is a sensory transition. You leave the carpeted silence of the cabin and step onto shifting metal plates. Visualize the floor beneath your feet, two overlapping sheets of steel that slide over one another as the train turns. They grind and groan, a friction that speaks of the massive forces at work. The walls here are made of a flexible, rubberized canvas, the diaphragm, which breathes and compresses like a lung. The noise is louder here, a raw, rushing wind sound from the track below. The air is different too. It is often cooler, carrying the metallic scent of the wheels and the grease of the coupling. It is a thrill to stand here, hovering directly over the moving track, suspended between two worlds. You're in the belly of the beast, feeling the twisting and turning of the train in your own body, before you push through the heavy door and return to the hushed, warm sanctuary of the next carriage. Safe inside the new carriage, you seek out your seat, but before you settle, you lift your bag to the storage above, the luggage rack. In modern trains, these are plastic shelves, but let us drift back to the golden age of travel, where the rack was a thing of beauty. Visualize a network of brass rails and knotted netting. The brass is polished to a soft golden shine, reflecting the warm light of the cabin. The netting is made of thick, durable cord, woven into diamond shapes. It cradles the luggage of travellers, leather suitcases with brass buckles, hat boxes, tweed coats folded neatly. There is a sense of trust in this open storage. The objects sway gently with the motion of the train, rhythmic and hypnotic. Looking up at the rack, you see the parallax of travel. The suitcases remain still relative to you, while the world outside the window rushes backward. It is a visual anchor, a reminder that you have brought your belongings with you, that your life is packed and safe, suspended in a golden net above your head while you rest below. You settle into the seat, the upholstery scratching gently against your coat, and as the evening light fades outside, you reach out to a small chrome switch and illuminate the reading lamp. While the overhead lights of the carriage might be dimmed for the night, this small personal beacon belongs only to you. Visualize the cone of warm yellow light it casts. It is a spotlight of intimacy in a public space. It illuminates only your hands and the pages of your book, leaving the rest of the world in shadow. The text on the page stands out crisp and clear. The vibration of the train makes the light tremble ever so slightly, making the shadows of your fingers dance on the paper. This is the cocoon of the introvert. You're surrounded by strangers, yet you are entirely alone in your pool of light. The rhythm of the train becomes a metronome for your reading, the words flowing with the miles. Outside the small circle of illumination, the aisle and the window are dark, irrelevant. There is only the story in your hands and the steady, comforting propulsion of the engine carrying you through the night. But it is not just light that comforts you, it is warmth. As the winter night presses against the glass, turning the window into a sheet of ice, you feel a gentle rising heat from beneath the seat, the steam heat. Before electric heaters, trains were warmed by the steam from the locomotive itself, piped through the entire length of the train. Visualize the copper pipes running along the floor hidden behind a metal grill near your feet. You hear a faint, high-pitched hiss, sss, and the occasional metallic ping or knock as the metal expands. This is the steam hammer, the music of the heating system. The air rising from the floor is dry and toasty, smelling faintly of hot dust and iron. It warms your ankles first, then wraps you in a blanket of temperature that defies the blizzard outside. It is a sleepy, suffocatingly cozy heat. It fogs up the corners of the window, creating a small, misty canvas where you can draw a finger, tracing a line through the condensation. The contrast between the freezing void outside and the hissing, radiator warmth inside creates a feeling of supreme protection, a thermal barrier that lulls you into a deep drowsiness. Feeling warm and content, you decide to stretch your legs and wander toward the heart of the social train, finding yourself in the refreshment room or buffet car. This is not the formal dining car with its white linens. This is the casual communal counter of the railway. Visualize a long counter topped with zinc or formica, worn smooth by the elbows of a million travellers. Behind the counter stands a massive stainless steel tea urn. It hums with the electrical power, a little red light glowing to show the water is boiling. The air here smells of strong steeped tea, bitter coffee, and the sweet sugary scent of pastries under glass domes. The china here is thick and heavy, designed to survive a fall. You order a cup of tea. It is served steaming hot, the milk swirling into the dark liquid like a nebula. You stand at the counter or lean against a high table, holding the hot cup with both hands, feeling the heat seep into your palms. You're swaying in unison with the other passengers, a silent collective dance of balance. Here, strangers exchange brief, sleepy smiles. It is a place of transit within a transit, a brief refueling stop where the simple act of drinking hot tea becomes a ritual of grounding amidst the motion. As you finish your tea, the train begins to ascend, the engine working harder, the exhaust deepening. We are entering the high mountains again, where the snow is deep and dangerous. To protect the line, we enter a structure that is half tunnel, half bridge, the snow shed. Visualize a long wooden gallery built over the tracks, constructed from heavy, rough-hewn timbers. These are not dark tunnels, they are slatted, like the ribcage of a whale. As the train enters, the light changes. It is filtered through the gaps in the wood, creating a strobing effect of light and shadow, flickering across the interior of the carriage. The sound changes too. The roar of the wheels is reflected back by the wood, creating a hollow, boxy echo. Clop, 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 clop. You can see the snow piled high against the outside of the shed, pressing against the timbers, white and heavy. But inside, the track is dry and clear. You're travelling through a wooden corridor carved out of the avalanche. It smells of damp pine and cold stone. It is a primitive architectural shelter, a testament to the stubbornness of the railway to keep the line open, wrapping you in a wooden embrace while the mountain tries to bury you. Finally, the journey feels so complete, so all-encompassing, that you can almost hold the entire world in your hands. And indeed, for many, the love of trains is best expressed not in riding them, but in shrinking them down to the size of a tabletop, the model railway. We drift from the snowy mountains of reality to the attic sanctuary of the hobbyist. Visualize a room that smells of sawdust, ozone from electric motors, and model glue. In the center is a massive table, a landscape created by hand. There are hills made of plaster and wire mesh, painted in shades of summer green. There are tiny trees made of twisted wire and foam, and there, winding through this perfect static world, is the train. It is an HO scale locomotive, no bigger than a cucumber, yet perfect in every detail. You are the giant, the controller of this universe. You turn a large plastic dial, the transformer. The tiny engine hums and begins to crawl along the nickel-silver tracks. Zzz. It pulls tiny carriages past a tiny station where frozen plastic passengers wait forever for a train that always arrives. There is a godlike peace in this. You control the speed. You control the switches. You control the weather. The chaos of the real world with its delays and dangers is banished here. There is only the rhythmic electric hum of the miniature motor and the soft clicking of tiny wheels on tiny rails. It is the essence of the railway distilled into pure relaxation, a safe, enclosed loop where nothing ever goes wrong, and the train always comes home, circling endlessly in the warm, quiet orbit of your own imagination. And as the miniature electric train continues its endless hypnotic loop on the table, our mind drifts downward, settling on the floorboards, returning to an even simpler, more tactile memory of childhood, the wind-up train. Before there were transformers and wires, there was the magic of the key. Visualize a small tin plate locomotive painted in bright primary colours, cherry red, cobalt blue and canary yellow. It feels cool and lightweight in your hands, the metal tabs folded over with mechanical precision. You insert a T-shaped metal key into the side of the engine. Feel the resistance as you turn it. Click, 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 click. With every turn, you are storing energy, winding a steel spring tighter and tighter inside the casing. It is a potential force, a coiled muscle waiting to be released. You place the train on the wooden floor or a simple circle of plastic track. You release the brake lever. The sound is an energetic, buzzing whir. Sst. A frantic, happy mechanical sound as the gears unspool. The train scuttles across the floor, perhaps wobbling slightly, its speed determined not by a dial, but by the fading tension of the spring. It slows down gradually, the buzzing pitch dropping lower and lower until it comes to a gentle halt. There is a purity to this play. It teaches us that movement requires energy, that a journey is finite, and that there is a simple joy in setting something in motion and watching it go, powered by nothing more than the work of your own hand. From the safe enclosed loop of the playroom floor, we expand our view out to the intersection where the railway meets the rest of the world, the level crossing. This is the only place where the domain of the train and the domain of the car intersect, a meeting place of two different speeds. Visualize a quiet country road at twilight. The air is still, smelling of damp asphalt and hedgerows. Suddenly, the silence is broken by a rhythmic, urgent chime. Ding, 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 ding. Red lights begin to flash, twin eyes winking in the gloom. Then, the barriers descend. These long red and white striped arms lower slowly, gracefully, like the limbs of a sleeping giant, barring the way. You're sitting in a car, the engine idling. You're forced to stop, forced to wait. There is a suspense in this pause. You look down the track, watching for the light. Then it appears, a single, bright star growing larger. The train rushes past, a blur of lighted windows and steel. Whoosh, clack, whoosh, clack. The car rocks gently on its suspension from the wind of the train's passing. You catch brief, strobe-like glimpses of passengers inside. A profile reading a book, a hand raising a cup. And then, as quickly as it arrived, it is gone. The red lights fade. The barriers rise, pointing back to the sky. The road is open again. It is a momentary meditation, a forced stillness that reminds us of the unstoppable momentum of the railway, slicing through the static landscape of our daily lives. As the train passes the crossing and disappears around the bend, it enters a landscape that has been carved specifically to hold it, the railway cutting. When a hill stands in the way of a train, engineers do not always go over it or tunnel through it. Sometimes they slice the earth open. Visualize a deep, man-made canyon. The walls rise steep and high on either side, exposing layers of soil, clay and rock, a geological history book laid bare. Because these slopes are too steep for farming or building, nature has reclaimed them. The cutting becomes a secret garden, a sanctuary for wildlife. Imagine the train gliding through this green corridor. The noise of the outside world is cut off by the high earthen walls, creating a bubble of silence. The roar of the train is reflected back, amplifying the sound into a rhythmic rushing echo. You look out the window and see a blur of wildflowers, goldenrod, oxeye daisies and fireweed swaying in the turbulence. A fox, startled by the vibration, darts into a hole in the bank. Sunlight filters down from the top of the cutting, creating a cathedral effect, where the train is moving through a shaft of light at the bottom of a green sea. It is a feeling of being embraced by the earth, travelling through a hidden vein of the landscape, protected from the wind and the weather by the land itself. Emerging from the sheltered cutting, the train arrives at a station, coming to a halt with a hiss of brakes. Here, in the quiet moments before departure, we witness a ritual of safety that is as musical as it is mechanical: the wheel tapper. In the age of steam and early diesel, before automated sensors, the integrity of the train was checked by the human ear. Visualize a man in a long coat, walking slowly down the length of the platform carrying a long-handled steel hammer. He is the tuner of the train. He stops at each wheel and swings the hammer. Cling. He listens. A solid, undamaged wheel sings a clear, bell-like note. It rings true. But a cracked wheel sounds dull and flat. Clunk. It is the sound of danger. The tapper moves with a rhythmic gait. Step, swing, cling. Step, swing, cling. It is a slow, percussive melody that travels down the train. For the passenger sitting above, feeling the slight vibration of the hammer blow through the floor, it is a comforting signal. It is the sound of care. It tells you that someone is listening to the metal, asking the steel if it is ready to carry you. It transforms the cold physics of the wheel into a conversation, a musical assurance that every part of the machine is whole and sound. Inside the station building, above the heads of the rushing crowd, hangs another mechanical marvel that speaks to the senses: the Solari board, or the split flap display. In modern stations, screens are silent and digital, but the old departure boards were living, breathing machines. Visualize a massive black board covering the wall of the concourse, filled with rows of letters and numbers. When the time changes or a train is announced, the board comes alive. Clack, 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 shh. The sound is like a sudden flock of plastic birds taking flight, or the sound of heavy rain on a tin roof. Hundreds of small hinged flaps flip over rapidly, cascading across the board. You watch as the letters cycle through the alphabet: A, B, C, D, Paris, R, S, T, Rome. There is a delicious anticipation in watching the destination form, letter by letter. It creates a physical sense of time passing and information changing. The sound echoes in the high-ceilinged hall, a chaotic chatter that resolves into order. It commands attention. Every head turns to look. It is the oracle of the station, speaking in a language of clicks and clatters, announcing the possibilities of the future with a satisfying mechanical certainty that a pixel screen can never replicate. Just off the main concourse, tucked away in a quiet corner behind a frosted glass door, lies a room that houses the ghosts of journeys past, the Lost Property Office. This is the library of forgotten things. The air here is still and smells of dust, dry wool and old leather. It is a hushed repository of the objects that travellers have left behind in their haste or their slumber. Visualise the shelves. They are lined with rows of umbrellas like sleeping bats, their black nylon fabric gathering dust. There are suitcases that have lost their owners, filled with clothes that were once chosen with care. There are teddy bears with worn fur, waiting for children who have grown up. There are reading glasses, books with bookmarks halfway through, hats and scarves. Each object is a suspended story, a narrative interrupted. The room has a melancholy beauty. It is a place of pause. The frantic motion of the railway does not enter here. These objects are resting, catalogued and tagged with the date and the train number, waiting for a reunion that may never come. It reminds us of the transient nature of travel, how easily we can become detached from our possessions, and how the railway becomes a silent guardian of the fragments we leave behind. If the Lost Property Office is the attic of the railway, the building next door is its drawing room, the Railway Hotel. In the 19th century, the great railway companies did not just build stations, they built palaces of hospitality right beside them. Visualise the St Pancras Renaissance in London or the Chateau Frontenac in Quebec. These are buildings of red brick and stone, with Gothic spires reaching for the clouds. You walk from the smoky, noisy platform directly through a revolving door into a lobby of hushed opulence. The carpet is thick and deep, swallowing the sound of your footsteps. The ceiling is lost in the shadows of chandeliers. There is a smell of beeswax polish, fresh lilies, and expensive cigars. The connection is seamless. You have moved from the moving room of the train to the stationary room of the hotel without ever stepping into the street. Imagine lying in a four-poster bed in a high-tower room. You're wrapped in fine linens. Faintly, through the thick velvet curtains and the double-glazed windows, you can hear the muffled whistle of a train below. It is a distant, comforting reminder of the journey you have completed. The Railway Hotel is the ultimate decompression chamber, a place where the grandeur of the rails extends into your dreams, offering a static luxury to match the dynamic motion of the day. But not every train can make the journey alone. On the steepest gradients, where the laws of physics threaten to halt the heavy load, we call upon the strongest member of the family, the banking engine. Visualise the Lickey Incline in England, a slope so steep that a single locomotive would slip and stall. As the heavy freight train approaches the bottom of the hill, it slows down. From a siding, a second engine emerges, often a massive, powerful beast built solely for strength, not speed. It creeps up behind the train. There is no coupling, it simply buffers up, nose to tail, metal touching metal. The driver of the banking engine opens the regulator. Smoke blasts from the chimney, a fierce rhythmic eruption. Chuff, 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 chuff. You can feel the raw power as the banker pushes the train from behind. It is an act of mechanical solidarity. The lead engine pulls, the banking engine pushes, and together they conquer the hill. Inside the train, you feel the surge, the extra hand on your back lifting you upward. It is a slow, grinding ascent, a testament to teamwork and brute force. At the top of the hill, the gradient levels out. The banking engine eases off, slowing down, and the train accelerates away, free. The helper stops, panting in the steam, ready to return to the bottom and help the next traveller. While the banking engine relies on brute force, the safety of a single-track line relies on a delicate tactile ritual, the tablet exchange. In the days before electronic signalling, how did you ensure two trains didn't meet head-on on a single track? You used a physical key, a token, or tablet. Only the driver holding the tablet was allowed on the section. But stopping to hand over a key would waste time, so they developed a way to pass it at speed. Visualize the tablet catcher. The signalman stands on a platform next to the track. He holds a large loop, like a giant tennis racket frame, with the leather pouch containing the tablet attached to it. The train approaches at 40 miles per hour. The fireman leans out of the cab, his arm extended. He holds his own loop to give to the signalman. In a blur of motion, whack-clatter, the exchange happens. The fireman catches the signalman's loop on his arm and simultaneously drops his loop. The leather pouch slams against the side of the cab. It is a moment of high-stakes dexterity, a physical handover of authority performed in the blink of an eye. The driver checks the tablet. It is the correct one. The line is theirs. The train roars on, secured by a simple leather pouch and the skill of a human hand. Finally, the journey must end. The track cannot go on forever. At the very terminus of the line, standing stoic and silent at the end of the rails, is the buffer stop. This is the period at the end of the sentence. Visualize a heavy industrial structure made of steel beams and hydraulic pistons, anchored deep into the concrete of the platform. It often has a red crossbeam, like a warning sign, and 2 round flat plates designed to meet the buffers of the locomotive. It is the definition of stop. When the train pulls into the final station, creeping slowly, the buffer stop waits. It is the ultimate boundary, the physical limit of the railway's reach. Sometimes you will see a pile of sand or gravel behind it, a drag shoe, to absorb any excess energy. But usually the train stops inches away, a respectful distance. To look at a buffer stop is to feel a sense of completion. There is no more forward. The energy of the journey has been spent. The steam dissipates, the engine cools, and the passengers disembark. The buffer stop stands there, unmoving, a silent promise that you have arrived, that you are home, and that you need go no further. The rails end here, and so does the motion, leaving you in a place of perfect stationary rest. And standing there at the buffer stop where the journey meets its quiet and absolute end, you turn your gaze upward to the structure that arches gracefully over the waiting tracks, the station footbridge. This is the viewer's gallery of the railway. Visualize climbing the wrought iron stairs, your footsteps ringing with a hollow metallic clang against the diamond-patterned steps. The handrail is smooth and cold, painted in layers of gloss paint so thick it feels like enamel skin. When you reach the top, you are suspended directly above the sleeping engines. From this vantage point, the perspective shifts. You look down into the chimneys and the open coal tenders. If a steam engine passes beneath you, the sensation is visceral. You're enveloped in a sudden warm cloud of white steam and grey smoke. For a moment, the world disappears in a fragrant mist that smells of sulphur, hot oil, and adventure. You feel the heat rising against your face, a fleeting embrace of industrial warmth. The smoke clears, leaving a dusting of soot on the bridge railing, and you watch the train recede, its roof slick with rain or shine, snaking away like a metallic river. The footbridge is a place of pause, a bridge between the arrival and the departure, where you can stand suspended in the air and simply watch the flow of travel beneath your feet without ever having to move. From this high perch, your eye is drawn down the line to a tall skeletal post standing guard at the end of the platform, the semaphore signal. Before the age of coloured electric lights, the railway spoke in the language of mechanical arms. Visualize a tall white post, topped with a long rectangular wooden arm painted red with a white vertical stripe. It is a masterpiece of simple visual communication. When the line is blocked, the arm stands horizontal, a rigid bar saying stop. But when the signalman pulls the lever, the arm drops, clunk, to a 45-degree angle. It is a heavy, satisfying movement, a physical gesture of permission. The way is clear. At night, this mechanical dance is translated into light. Behind the arm sits a lamp, and attached to the arm is a pair of coloured lenses. The spectacle. When the arm drops, the green glass slides in front of the flame. When it rises, the red glass returns. Imagine watching this from a distance in the velvet darkness. The light changes from a warning red eye to a welcoming green star, a silent nod from the darkness telling the driver, and you, that the path ahead is safe and open. But what happens when the night is too thick for lights? When the pea-souper fogs of November roll in and swallow the semaphore whole? Then the railway relies on sound, and a small explosive device known as the fog signal, or detonator. This is the auditory safety net of the line. Visualize a small, round metal disc, about the size of a large coin or a pocket watch, painted a bright warning yellow. When the fog is thick, a fogman, a lonely sentinel wrapped in a heavy coat, places this disc on top of the steel rail, securing it with lead straps. It sits there, waiting in the mist. When the heavy wheel of the locomotive rolls over it, the pressure triggers a small charge of gunpowder. Bang! It is a sharp, loud report, unmistakable even over the roar of the engine. It is not a sound of destruction, but of protection. It tells the driver, the signal is red, you cannot see it, but you must stop. It is a rough, primitive alert, a sudden crack of thunder that cuts through the white silence of the fog, ensuring that even when the eyes fail, the ears can still guide the train to safety. While the detonator handles the danger of the air, the engine must also deal with the treachery of the ground, specifically the slippery rail. To conquer this, every locomotive carries a secret weapon, the sandbox. Steel wheels on steel rails offer very little friction, especially when the tracks are slick with autumn leaves, ice, or morning dew. The wheels can spin helplessly, screaming against the metal. Visualize a box mounted near the wheels, or sometimes a dome sitting atop the boiler like a small helmet. Inside, it is filled with dry golden sand. When the driver feels the wheels slip, they open a valve. Gravity or compressed air forces the sand down a small pipe, depositing it directly onto the rail, just inches in front of the wheel. Imagine the sound and sensation, a gritty crunch as the steel tire bites into the sand. The friction is instant. The engine finds its footing. It is a tactile connection, the earth itself, simple sand, being used to bind the machine to the road. It is a reminder that no matter how advanced the engineering, sometimes you need a little grit, a little roughness, to find your traction and move forward. Finding traction allows the train to move, but identifying who is moving requires a face. We look now to the front of the locomotive, to the arrangement of the head code lamps. In the dark, a train is just a noise and a shadow. To tell the signalmen what is approaching, trains wore a mask of light. Visualize the front of a steam engine. There are 4 brackets, 1 at the top of the smoke box and 3 across the buffer beam. The crew would place white oil lamps on these brackets in specific patterns. 2 lamps, 1 on either buffer. That's an express passenger train, the royalty of the line demanding a clear path. 1 lamp at the top and 1 in the middle. A heavy freight train. These were the eyes of the night. Imagine standing by the trackside as a train approaches. You see a constellation of warm yellow lights rushing towards you. They tell a story of priority and purpose. It gives the train a personality, a face that emerges from the gloom. It is a silent code, a language of light positions that ensured the slow coal train was sidelined to let the flying express thunder through, maintaining the perfect, orderly flow of the system. One of those lamp codes might announce a very specific, very early morning visitor, the milk train. In the days before refrigeration trucks, the railway was the lifeline that brought fresh milk from the countryside to the city. Visualize a platform at 4 a.m. The world is blue and grey, hanging in the pre-dawn chill. The mist is clinging to the fields. The silence is broken by a distinctive hollow clanking sound. Clank clatter, clank clatter. It is the sound of metal milk churns, tall conical cans made of tinned steel, being rolled along the platform. They are heavy, filled with the morning's milking, sloshing gently inside. The train arrives, often a mixed train of passenger coaches and slatted utility vans. The porters heave the churns aboard. The smell is specific: cold steel, fresh cream, and damp morning air. The train moves slowly, stopping at every tiny village halt, gathering the white harvest of the farms. Riding this train is a meditation on the morning. You watch the sun rise from the window, turning the grey fields to gold, knowing that you are carrying the most essential, wholesome cargo to the waking city. A quiet, clinking service that underpins the start of the day. Sometimes the tracks reach the edge of the land, and the journey seems impossible. But the railway refuses to stop at the water's edge. We drift now onto the surreal deck of the train ferry. This is a vessel designed to swallow a train whole. Visualize the port at Dover or Calais. A massive ship backs into a specialised dock. The sea heaves gently, dark and deep. A link span bridge is lowered, connecting the land to the ship. Then, the miracle happens. The train, heavy and solid, drives slowly onto the water. Rails are bolted to the deck of the ship. The carriages roll onto the boat, and chains are lashed around the axles to hold them steady against the roll of the ocean. Imagine sleeping in your compartment. You feel the rhythmic click-clack of the track stop, replaced by the slow, lulling heave of the sea. Sway, sway. You're a passenger on a train that is a passenger on a boat. You look out the porthole and see waves instead of fields. It is a hybrid state, a dreamlike blending of elements where earth and water meet, carrying you safely across the channel without you ever having to leave your bed. From the utilitarian ferry, we ascend to the absolute pinnacle of exclusivity and comfort, the Royal Train. This is a phantom of the network, a train that moves in a bubble of security and silence. Visualize the exterior, a deep, rich claret, a colour so dark and glossy it looks like spilled wine, polished to a mirror finish. There are no advertising posters, no dirt, no noise. Inside, the world is hushed. The walls are lined with satinwood and walnut. The carpets are so thick they feel like moss. The lighting is soft, emanating from sconces shaped like scallop shells. There is a day saloon, with armchairs upholstered in blue silk damask. The train moves at a stately pace, never rushing, ensuring the ride is glass smooth. When the Royal Train sleeps in a siding overnight, the adjacent tracks are closed to traffic to ensure absolute quiet. It is the ultimate expression of the railway as a sanctuary. It is a mobile palace, a space where the chaos of the world is locked out by heavy curtains and bulletproof glass, leaving only a corridor of peace moving regally through the landscape. Inside such a luxurious carriage, or even a humble one, your attention is drawn to a small white detail pinned to the headrest of the seat, the antimacassar. It is a word that feels as old as the steam engine itself. In the Victorian era, men used macassar oil to style their hair. To protect the fine fabric of the seats from this oil, railway companies pinned small, washable cloths over the back. Visualize this square of fabric. It is often white linen or heavy lace, starched to a crisp stiffness. It stands out against the dark red or blue plush of the upholstery like a snowflake. It is cool to the touch against the back of your neck. It represents a domestic standard of care. Even in a public machine, there is a nod to cleanliness, a small barrier between you and the thousands of travellers who have sat there before. It is a tactile detail, a bit of lace in a world of steel, offering a clean, fresh place to rest your head. It invites you to lean back, to trust the seat, and to let the tension drain from your neck muscles. Finally, we turn our gaze to a machine that represents the railway's ability to heal itself, the giant that comes when things go wrong, the breakdown crane. Even in this perfect world, sometimes a wheel slips or an axle breaks. Enter the Cowan Sheldon steam crane, a monster of yellow-painted steel. Visualize this mechanical titan arriving at the scene. It is a crane mounted on a railway car, massive and heavy, with a jib that reaches into the sky. It is powered by its own steam boiler, puffing white clouds as it works. It arrives with a tool van filled with jacks, timber packing, and heavy chains. Watch as the crane lowers its massive hook, a curve of iron as thick as a man's leg. The crew attaches the chains to the derailed engine. The crane takes the strain. The cables pull tight, singing with tension, creak, groan, and then the impossible weight of the locomotive is lifted. It hovers in the air, 100 tons of iron floating gracefully, before being gently lowered back onto the rails. It is a symbol of restoration. No matter how heavy the burden, no matter how far off the track we fall, there is always a force strong enough to lift us up and set us right again. It is a comforting thought to end on. The knowledge that help is always available, strong and capable, ready to put us back on the path to a peaceful journey. And once the great crane has completed its work, setting the iron beast gently back onto its feet, the locomotive is whole again, but it bears the marks of its labour, the grease, the soot, and the dust of the miles. Before it can return to the dignity of the line, it must be cleansed. We drift now into a cavern of water and motion, the carriage wash. Visualize the train moving slowly at a crawling pace toward a large open-ended shed that straddles the track. As the nose of the train breaks the invisible beam at the entrance, the machinery awakens. Suddenly you are surrounded by a storm of water. jets spray from every angle, drumming against the windows and the roof, with a heavy rhythmic thrumming. Drum, 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 drum. It is the sound of a heavy tropical rain, but concentrated and intense. Then come the brushes, giant vertical cylinders of soft bristles spinning rapidly, close in on the sides of the train. Imagine sitting inside by the window. The world outside disappears, replaced by a wall of spinning blue or grey foam. The brushes sweep against the glass, whir swish, obscuring the light, scrubbing away the grime of the journey. It is a sensory deprivation tank. The landscape is gone, the sky is gone, there is only the water and the soap. You feel a profound sense of being cared for, of being washed clean. The train emerges from the other side, dripping and glistening, the sunlight refracting through the water droplets on the glass, reborn and ready to face the horizon with a shining, fresh face. Clean and gleaming, the train rolls into a country station, and here, amidst the iron and the steam, we find a surprising pocket of botanical beauty, the station garden. In the golden age of the railway, station masters took immense pride in their platforms, cultivating small Edens beside the tracks. Visualize a long rectangular bed of soil cut directly into the platform, bordered by whitewashed stones or decorative tile. Here, despite the smoke and the soot, life flourishes. Picture tall hollyhocks reaching for the station roof, their pink and red blooms swaying in the gentle draft of passing trains. See the rows of marigolds, bright orange suns that seem to absorb the heat of the day. The air here smells not of coal, but of sweet peas and damp earth. You might see a station master in his uniform, pausing for a moment to deadhead a rose bush, a gesture of tenderness in a landscape of steel. Bees buzz lazily between the flowers, indifferent to the timetables. These gardens are anchors of nature, reminding us that even in the midst of industry and travel, there is a place for roots, for growth, and for the slow, quiet unfolding of a petal. It invites you to breathe in the floral scent, to ground yourself in the soil, and to find a moment of stillness while the rest of the world rushes by. From the timeless cycles of the garden, your eyes lift to the instrument that governs the rigid time of the railway, specifically the masterpiece of design known as the Swiss railway clock. This is not merely a device for telling time, it is a meditation on punctuality and the pause. Visualize the face of the clock, stark white, with bold black baton markers instead of numbers. It is the definition of clarity. The hands are black bars, but the second hand is different. It is a thin red rod, tipped with a circle, resembling the baton of a station guard. Watch the red hand closely as it sweeps around the face. It moves with a smooth, continuous motion, a silent glide. But when it reaches the top, at the 12 o'clock mark, it does something magical. It stops. For exactly 1.5 seconds, the red hand pauses. It waits. This brief hesitation allows the mint hand to jump forward to the next minute, and for the signal to synchronize across the entire network. Sweep, pause, jump. That tiny moment of stillness at the top of every minute is a breath. It is a heartbeat of the system. It suggests that even time itself has the permission to stop, to gather itself, to wait for the perfect moment before beginning the cycle again. Watching it is hypnotic, a rhythmic reassurance that everything is synchronized, everything is in order, and there is always time to take a breath. Under the watchful eye of that clock, we step through the heavy wooden doors into the acoustic cavern of the booking hall. This is the vestibule of the journey, the space where the transition from citizen to traveller begins. Visualize a room with a high vaulted ceiling, perhaps painted in cream and green, with sunlight streaming through dust-moated clear-story windows high above. The floor is a checkerboard of terrazzo or tile, worn smooth by a century of shoes. The sound here is unique, a hollow, echoing hush. Even whispers seem to carry, floating up into the rafters. In the centre or along the wall stands the ticket office. Picture the wooden counter, polished to a deep honey-coloured shine by the friction of hands and coins. There is a brass grille or a glass partition, a small window into the world of the clerk. You slide your coin across the brass tray, clink, and receive your ticket. The smell is of floor wax, old paper, and the faint metallic scent of copper pennies. It is a formal space, a temple of transit. There is no rushing here. The architecture demands a certain reverence. You stand in the centre of the hall, your footsteps clicking on the tiles, feeling the anticipation of the trip building within you, a quiet excitement contained within the solid, echoing walls. Ticket in hand, you move to the platform and board the train, finding yourself in the long, narrow artery that connects the moving world, the corridor. On older compartment trains, this is a unique social and physical space. Visualize a long passageway running down one side of the carriage. On one side, large windows offer an endless cinema of the passing world. On the other, sliding doors lead into the private compartments. The corridor is narrow, lined with polished wood veneer and brass handrails. As the train accelerates, the floor sways beneath you. Walking here requires a rhythmic adaptation, a sea legs of the railway. You reach out and hold the brass rail, feeling the cool metal and the vibration of the wheels. You pass other travellers. There is a polite, silent dance as you squeeze past one another, a brief moment of proximity. You glance into the compartments as you pass, vignettes of other lives. A family playing cards, a businessman asleep with a newspaper, a couple sharing a flask of tea. It is a gallery of humanity. The sun warms your back through the glass. You lean against the wall, watching the landscape slide by, suspended in this hallway of motion, neither here nor there, simply flowing with the train. The train moves steadily, but soon it approaches a mountain that is too steep for a straight climb. It is time to engage in a gentle, rocking ascent known as the zigzag, or switchback. Visualize a Z-shape carved into the side of a massive green mountain. The train cannot go straight up, so it must tack like a sailboat. The locomotive pulls the train up the first leg of the Z, climbing steadily until it reaches a dead end. The brakes hiss, the train stops, then the reverser is thrown. The engine pushes the train backward, up the middle leg of the Z. You're now moving in reverse, climbing higher, watching the track you just travelled on shrink below you. You reach the next dead end. Stop. Forward again. The train pulls up the final leg. It is a rhythmic, soaring motion, forward, backward, forward. It feels like being rocked in a cradle. There is a sense of patience to this method. The mountain is not conquered by speed, but by persistence and geometry. You feel the change in gravity, the gentle tug and push, as the train weaves its way up the sheer face of the rock, lifting you effortlessly toward the summit. Having conquered the mountain, the tracks descend and stretch out across a different kind of void, creating the sensation of a ship at sea, the causeway. Visualize the Lucin cutoff across the Great Salt Lake or the Flagler Railway to Key West. The tracks leave the solid land and venture out onto a narrow strip of gravel and rock built directly across the water. From the window, the ground disappears. You look down, and there is only water. It reflects the sky, creating a perfect blue mirror. The train seems to hover, floating between two firmaments. To the left, the horizon is a flat, endless line of water. To the right, the same. There are no trees, no houses, no landmarks, only the rhythmic, hypnotic flash of the waves and the sleepers. The sound of the train changes, becoming flatter, lost in the open air. The smell of salt and brine fills the carriage. It is a surreal, dreamlike experience, a suspension of the laws of land travel. You're gliding across the surface of the ocean, a solitary line of steel moving through the blue, untethered and free. As the sun sets over the water, the air grows cold, and we turn our attention inward to the beating heart of the steam locomotive, the firebox. Deep in the cab, the fireman tends to the source of all the power. Visualize the butterfly doors, two metal plates that slide open with the press of a pedal. Clang. The doors part, revealing the inferno inside. It is a blinding, brilliant orange-white light, a cave of pure heat. The coal bed pulses and breathes. The fireman takes a shovel, the metal scraping against the floor plate, scritch, and scoops up the black diamonds. With a fluid, practiced swing, he throws the coal into the mouth of the fire. Whoosh! The flames lick up, consuming the fuel. The doors snap shut, clang. Darkness returns to the cab, save for the dim glow of the gauges. Then the rhythm repeats. Open, throw, close. Open, throw, close. The heat washes over the crew in waves. It is a primal, comforting warmth. This is the metabolism of the machine, the conversion of stone into speed. Watching the glow of the firebox is like staring into a hearth on a winter's night. A mesmerizing, ancient light that promises power and safety against the cold dark. But not all trains rely on fire and noise. We drift back in time to a ghost of an invention, a system designed for absolute silence, the atmospheric railway. In the mid-19th century, engineers dreamed of a train without an engine. Visualize a track with a cast iron pipe running between the rails. Inside the pipe is a piston connected to the train above by a leather flap. Steam engines at stationary pumping houses miles away pump the air out of the pipe, creating a vacuum. The pressure of the atmosphere pushes the piston, and the train glides forward. Imagine the sensation. There is no locomotive at the front, no smoke, no chugging, no sparks. The train simply moves, pulled by the invisible hand of the air itself. It is a silent ghost, gliding through the countryside. The only sound is the wind and the soft rustle of the leather flap sealing the pipe. It feels like magic. It is a smooth, liquid motion, unburdened by heavy machinery. Although it was a fleeting experiment, the idea remains a soothing dream. A train that floats on the breath of the world, quiet, clean, and effortlessly propelled by the weight of the sky. Finally, the train completes its journey and retires to the place where the rails fan out like a river delta, the marshalling yard. It is deep night now. The passengers are gone. The fires are banked. But there is one figure who walks the silent rows of sleeping wagons, the night watchman. Visualize this solitary guardian walking along the gravel ballast, a lantern swinging by his side. The light casts long, dancing shadows against the sides of the freight cars and the silent locomotives. The yard is a library of stationary giants. You can hear the metal cooling, the occasional tick and ping of contracting steel. The wind whistles softly through the brake riggings. The watchman checks the seals on the doors, his boots crunching softly on the stones. He is the custodian of the sleep. There is a profound peace in the yard at night, a stillness that is deeper because of the potential for motion that surrounds it. These machines, capable of pulling thousands of tons, are now at rest, docile and heavy. The watchman's lantern is a small, warm star moving through the labyrinth of iron, a signal that all is well, all is safe, and the fleet rests securely under the cover of the velvet night. And as the night watchman's lantern bobs away into the labyrinth of the marshalling yard, fading like a dying star, your gaze lifts from the dark iron of the rails to the canopy of the heavens above. It is here, under the vast, glittering dome of the night sky, that we encounter the ultimate observatory of the rails, the dome car. Visualize a carriage where the roof has been peeled away, replaced by a raised, curved bubble of reinforced glass. This is the Vista Dome, a greenhouse for the soul. You climb the short flight of stairs from the main aisle, emerging into this elevated sanctuary. You're sitting higher than the rest of the train, head and shoulders above the roofline. There are no walls here, only transparency. In the day, it is a sun-drenched solarium, offering a panoramic view of the canyons and the forests. But at night, it becomes a rolling planetarium. You lean back in the plush seat, looking straight up. The train lights are dimmed to prevent reflection, leaving you alone with the cosmos. You watch the moon racing through the clouds, keeping pace with the engine. You trace the constellations, Orion, Cassiopeia, the Pleiades, wheeling slowly overhead. The glass is cold to the touch, a thin membrane separating you from the freezing high-altitude air, but inside you're enveloped in warmth. The silence is deeper here, the noise of the wheels muffled by the floor below. You're floating through the universe, a traveller in a glass capsule, witnessing the majesty of the galaxy while the Earth rolls rhythmically beneath you. From the transparent glass of the dome, we shift our focus to the skin of the train itself, visualizing a material that captured the spirit of the future, the stainless steel streamliner. In the 1930s, the Burlington Zephyr changed the look of the railway forever. Gone was the painted wood and the heavy black iron. In its place came the shot-welded stainless steel, fluted and polished until it shone like a mirror. Visualize this train standing on the track under the moonlight. It looks like a bolt of quicksilver, a fluid metallic shape that seems to be moving even when it is standing still. The sides of the carriages are not flat. They are corrugated, covered in horizontal ridges that catch the light and stretch it into long shimmering ribbons. This is the streamline modern style, aerodynamic, sleek, and fiercely modern. Imagine running your hand along the side of the train. The metal is cool, smooth, and incredibly hard. It reflects the world around it, the green of the grass, the blue of the sky, the orange of the sunset, becoming a camouflage of speed. To ride inside a streamliner is to be encased in a silver bullet, protected by a shell that is impervious to rust and time, slicing through the wind with a silent gleaming efficiency that feels like flight. As the silver streamliner glides into the station, your eyes are drawn away from the train to the walls of the platform, where a different kind of window awaits, the railway poster. Before the age of digital screens and photographs, the romance of travel was sold through the brushstrokes of artists. Visualize a large paper poster framed in oak, pasted against the brickwork. It is a lithograph, bold and colourful, promising a world of flat pastel perfection. The colours are vivid yet soothing, the deep azure of the Cornish Sea, the emerald green of the Yorkshire Dales, the sun-baked gold of the French Riviera. The text is elegant and minimal. Skegness is so bracing, or See America by rail. These images are portals. They do not show the grit or the smoke, they show the dream. Imagine standing on a grey, rainy platform in the city, feeling the damp chill in the air and looking into that rectangle of colour. It is a visual anchor, a promise of a destination where the sun is always shining and the sea is always calm. The artistic style, with its clean lines and block colours, evokes a sense of simplicity and order. It invites you to step out of your current reality and buy a ticket to a painted paradise, fueling your dreams with the soft, static beauty of the destination. While your eyes feast on the colours of the poster, your ears tune into the most iconic sound of the station environment, a disembodied presence that guides the flow of humanity, the station announcer. In the cavernous halls of grand terminals, the acoustics turn the human voice into something ethereal and omnipresent. Visualize the sound. It begins with a chime, bong bing bong, a melodic triad that cuts through the chatter of the crowd. Then the voice speaks. It is calm, measured, and genderless in its authority. The train now standing at platform 4. The words echo off the vaulted ceiling, overlapping slightly, creating a reverberation that sounds like a chant in a cathedral. It is a slow, rhythmic recitation of names, a geography lesson of the line. Stopping at Oxford, Leamington Spa, Banbury, and London Paddington. There is a soothing cadence to the list, a hypnotic repetition. It is the voice of the oracle, invisible but all-knowing. It requires you to stop, to tilt your head, and to listen. It is a comforting reminder that there is a plan, that the system is watching, and that you are being guided to your place in the queue by a voice that floats in the air like smoke. The echo of the announcer fades as you board the train, and soon a different, more intimate sound calls to you from the corridor, the dining car gong. In the golden age of travel, Dinner was not merely a meal, it was an event announced by a musical ritual. Visualize a steward in a white jacket walking through the swaying train. In his hand, he carries a small handheld xylophone or a set of chimes. With a small mallet, he strikes the bars, ding dong ding dong. The sound is bright, metallic, and cheerful. It travels easily over the low rumble of the wheels. It is the first call for dinner. It is a sound that sparks a Pavlovian response of comfort and hunger. It signals the transition from the solitary observation of the landscape to the communal warmth of the table. You rise from your seat, smoothing your clothes, and follow the fading notes of the gong down the corridor. It is a civilized summons, a gentle musical bell that organizes the day, promising that nourishment and luxury are waiting for you just a few carriages away. But not every carriage stays with the train for the entire journey. We drift now to a forgotten marvel of railway operations, a maneuver that feels like a magic trick, the slip coach. In the days before high-speed deceleration, railways wanted to drop passengers off at intermediate stations without stopping the express train. Visualize the scene. The train is thundering along at 70 miles per hour. At the rear of the train is the slip coach. A special guard sits in the front booth of this carriage. As the train approaches the station, he engages a mechanism to disconnect the vacuum brake hoses and lifts the coupling hook. The train does not slow down. It speeds away, the gap widening, a foot, a yard, a mile. The slip coach is now a free-rolling object, gliding on its own momentum. The guard uses a handbrake to gently slow the carriage, piloting it silently into the station platform while the rest of the train disappears over the horizon. It is a maneuver of silence and grace. Imagine sitting in that carriage. The roar of the engine fades away, replaced by the quiet hiss of the wheels on the rail. You drift into the station, coming to a perfect, gentle halt. It is the ultimate letting go, a peaceful detachment where you are released from the main force to find your own quiet stop. In the quiet of a long journey, where the hours stretch out like the tracks, some trains offered a sanctuary for the mind, the travelling library. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, dedicated carriages were fitted out with bookshelves, bringing literature to the line. Visualize a compartment lined with dark oak shelves, filled with leather-bound volumes. The books are held in place by wooden slats or brass bars to prevent them from tumbling when the train rounds a curve. The air smells of old paper, leather polish, and pipe smoke. You select a book, perhaps a novel, perhaps a travel guide, and sit in a winged armchair. The rhythm of the train becomes a reading metronome. You read a sentence, look out the window at a passing meadow, and read again. The vibration of the carriage shakes the pages gently in your hand. There is a profound sense of double travel here. Your body is moving across the physical landscape, while your mind is travelling through the landscape of the story. It is a cocoon of intellectual peace, where the world outside is kept at bay by the heavy spine of a good book and the steady, comforting thrum of the wheels. While the library offers comfort, other vehicles on the line are built for stark utility and solitude. We look down the track to see a strange skeletal contraption moving under human power, the inspection velocipede. Before pickup trucks, track inspectors rode these three-wheeled cycles. Visualize a frame of lightweight wood and iron. It has two wheels on the main rail like a bicycle, and a third, smaller wheel on an outrigger arm resting on the opposite rail for balance. It looks like a mechanical water strider insect. The inspector sits on a small saddle, pumping a hand lever or pedaling with his feet. Squeak-clack, squeak-clack. You're completely exposed to the elements. You're low to the ground, feeling every joint in the rail. It is a solitary existence, riding this spider-like machine through the vast emptiness of the prairie or the dense tunnel of a forest. There is a sense of vulnerability, but also of freedom. You are the rider of the rails, physically connected to the infrastructure, moving with a slow, deliberate rhythm that allows you to inspect every inch of the steel path. From the fragile lightness of the velocipede, we expand our vision to the widest, most stable stance the railway ever took, the broad gauge. This was the dream of Isambard Kingdom Brunel, the giant of Victorian engineering. He believed that standard rails were too narrow, so he built his Great Western Railway with rails set 7 feet and a quarter inch apart. Visualize this track. It is massive. The train cars sitting upon it are wider, more spacious, like rolling ballrooms. Because of the width, the centre of gravity is lower. The train does not rock or sway, it glides. Imagine sitting in a broad gauge carriage. You can stretch your legs out, and there is still room. The ride is impossibly smooth, a sensation of floating on a magic carpet rather than rolling on wheels. It feels substantial, planted, unshakable. Although the broad gauge was eventually standardised away, the memory of it remains, a vision of a railway built without compromise, a wide open embrace of the earth that offered the most stable and peaceful journey ever conceived. Finally, the broad tracks lead us into the heart of the city, where the railway terminates not in a dark tunnel, but under a sky of glass, the train shed. This is the architectural crowning glory of the station. Visualise the roof of St Pancras in London, or Grand Central in New York. It is a single, soaring arch of iron ribs and glass panes, spanning hundreds of feet without a single column to interrupt the space. It is a man-made sky. The ironwork is painted a pale blue or a deep red, intricate and lace-like despite its strength. Sunlight filters through the dirty glass, creating shafts of god rays that illuminate the steam and the dust motes dancing in the air below. The sound of the trains is trapped and amplified, creating a white noise of escaping steam and slamming doors that fills the space like water. But despite the size, it feels protective. You're indoors, yet the scale is outdoors. The roof curves over you like a protective wing, sheltering the trains and the travellers from the rain and the snow. It is a cathedral of industry, a space that celebrates the arrival and the departure, holding the energy of the journey within its vast, airy embrace. And beneath the protective arch of that great glass roof, where the steam trapped in the rafters catches the last golden rays of the sun, we seek a smaller, more intimate shelter. We drift away from the grand concourse and push open a heavy frosted glass door to find ourselves in the waiting room. In the air before plastic bucket seats and fluorescent glare, this was a parlour for the public. Visualise a room with high wainscoting of dark polished oak, smelling of floor wax and coal smoke. In the centre of the wall stands a cast iron fireplace, the grate filled with glowing embers that pop and hiss softly. Snap, hiss. A heavy iron fender guards the heat. You sit on a long wooden bench, the seat worn smooth and contoured by the patience of thousands of travellers before you. There is a profound stillness here. The roar of the station outside is muffled to a dull hum. Dust motes dance in the shaft of light falling from a high window. You're in a state of suspension, a pause between your origin and your destination. You watch the clock on the wall, its pendulum swinging with a slow, hypnotic tick-tock, tick-tock, measuring out the moments of rest. It is a communal silence, shared with a few other sleepy figures huddled in their coats, all united by the simple act of waiting, safe and warm while the wind rattles the window panes. Resting on the floor beside you, catching the light from the fire, is a heavy leather trunk, and pasted onto its side is a mosaic of memory, the luggage label. Before travel became uniform, suitcases were passports in themselves, covered in these colourful paper badges. Visualise the texture of the trunk, stiff, varnished canvas or battered leather, and the layers of paper adhering to it. These labels are miniature works of art. One is a bright yellow circle from the Hotel Bristol in Paris. Another is a deep blue rectangle from the Shepherd's Hotel in Cairo, featuring a palm tree and a pyramid. They are stuck on with strong gum, their edges peeling slightly, curling up like dried leaves. To run your fingers over them is to read a braille of distance. They represent the history of the journey, a physical logbook of where this object has been. They smell of old glue and foreign cities. Each label is a badge of honour, a colourful stamp of experience that transforms a simple box into a seasoned traveller, whispering stories of the Orient Express, the Riviera and the Alps, all resting quietly at your feet. You lift the trunk and board the train, settling into an older compartment that speaks of a time when interaction with the machine was tactile and heavy. You reach out to adjust the air, grasping the leather window strap. In modern trains, windows are sealed shut, but here, the window is a heavy pane of plate glass housed in a wooden frame, controlled by a thick strip of oxblood leather. Visualize the strap. It is perforated with brass-rimmed holes like a giant belt. To lower the window, you must pull the strap toward you, feeling the heavy weight of the glass counterbalanced by a weight inside the door, and lift the brass stud out of its hole. Click. Then, you let the strap slide through your fingers, the leather smooth and cool as the window descends with a satisfying sliding rumble. The fresh air rushes in. To close it, you pull down hard, hand over hand, hoisting the glass back up until it hits the top with a solid thump. It is a physical negotiation with the carriage, a satisfying manual operation that gives you direct control over your environment, letting in the breeze or shutting out the rain with the strength of your own arm. Once the window is secured against the chill of the evening, you look to the floor for a source of comfort that has long since vanished from the modern world: the foot warmer. Before steam heating pipes ran through the carriages, passengers were kept warm by these simple, ingenious vessels. Visualize a flat, rectangular container made of tin or copper, heavy and filled with boiling water. A porter slides it into your compartment just before departure, pushing it across the floor with a distinct metallic scrape. It radiates a gentle, localized heat. You rest the soles of your shoes upon it, or perhaps you're wearing only socks, and you feel the warmth seeping up through your arches, thawing your toes. It is a fading heat, starting intense and slowly mellowing over the course of the journey, mirroring your own drift into sleep. Occasionally you shift your feet to find a warmer spot on the metal. It is a humble luxury, a hot water bottle for the journey, providing a steady, grounding warmth that rises from the floor and wraps you in a cozy, drowsy haze. As the train rolls through the countryside, warmed by the copper pan at your feet, you look out into the twilight and catch a glimpse of a solitary life lived by the tracks, the crossing keeper's cottage. At remote level crossings before automation, the railway built small homes for the guardians of the gates. Visualize a quaint brick house sitting just yards from the rails, surrounded by a white picket fence. It is a strange mix of the domestic and the industrial. There is a vegetable patch growing cabbages and carrots, thriving in the soil shaken daily by passing tons of steel. Lace curtains hang in the windows, glowing with the soft light of an oil lamp. A dog sleeps on the porch, yet right outside the garden gate stands the massive iron wheel used to open the barriers. The keeper lives in a rhythm dictated not by the sun but by the timetable. You see a figure standing at the door, perhaps holding a mug of tea, watching the train pass. It is a flash of intimacy, a home that exists in the liminal space of the journey, a cozy island of stability anchored right at the edge of the rushing iron river. The cottage disappears into the darkness, and the train dives into a long tunnel. But this time, the darkness is punctured by a vertical miracle: the ventilation shaft. Deep in the heart of the hill, where the air grows thick and heavy, engineers dug vertical chimneys rising hundreds of feet to the surface to let the smoke escape. Visualize the experience from inside the carriage. You're travelling through absolute blackness, the roar of the tunnel enveloping you. Suddenly, for a split second, a pillar of grey light washes over the train. It is an eye looking down from the world above. If you look up quickly, you might see a circle of sky, a disk of blue if it is day, or a circle of stars if it is night, framed by the soot-blackened bricks of the shaft. Smoke swirls in this beam of light, spiralling upward like a ghost seeking the exit. It is a momentary connection to the surface, a reminder that the world of grass and wind still exists above you. It passes in a heartbeat, flash, and you are back in the dark. But that brief glimpse of the heavens serves as a guiding star, a breath of light in the deep earth. Emerging from the tunnel, the train finds itself elevated above the landscape, running along the spine of the railway embankment. To keep the track level, engineers built these long earthen ridges, lifting the train high above the surrounding fields. From this vantage point, your perspective is sovereign. You're floating 20 feet in the air. You look down on the slate roofs of houses, seeing the smoke curling from their chimneys. You look down into the backyards, catching snippets of private lives, laundry hanging on a line, a child playing on a swing. The sides of the embankment are steep and overgrown, a haven for wildflowers that love the disturbed soil. Visualize waves of purple foxgloves, yellow ragwort, and white ox-eye daisies swaying in the turbulence of the train. Rabbits freeze in the grass as the shadow passes over them. You feel a sense of detachment, gliding on a raised ribbon of steel, observing the world without touching it, separated by the height and the speed, a silent voyeur drifting over the tapestry of the land. The train slows and enters a grand cavernous station for a brief stop. In the midst of the echoing footsteps and the announcements, a lonely, beautiful melody floats through the air. The station piano. In recent years, pianos have been placed in concourses around the world, inviting travellers to play. Visualize an old, upright piano, its wood chipped and scarred, standing against a tiled wall. A stranger sits at the keys, perhaps a student with a backpack or an elderly man in a flat cap. He begins to play. The notes of a Chopin nocturne or a jazz standard rise up, mingling with the sound of rolling suitcases and distant whistles. The acoustics of the station act like a cathedral, amplifying the music, giving it a haunting, reverb-heavy quality. People pause in their rush. For a moment, the chaotic timeline of the station is suspended by the rhythm of the song. The music softens the hard edges of the industrial space. It is a gift of sound, a spontaneous concert that transforms the waiting hall into a ballroom, wrapping the travellers in a blanket of melody before they disperse to their separate platforms. Beyond the passenger halls, in the darker, quieter corners of the yard, stands a building dedicated to silence and storage, the goods shed. This is the warehouse of the railway. Visualize a large brick building with massive wooden sliding doors, often built so the track runs directly inside. The interior is shadowy and cool, smelling of burlap sacks, dry grain, sawdust and raw timber. It is a cathedral of commerce. Sunlight slices through gaps in the slate roof, illuminating dust motes dancing in the still air. There are wooden platforms at waist height, polished by the sliding of a million crates. In the corner stands a small hand-cranked crane, its chain hanging motionless. The noise here is different. Not the hiss of steam, but the scuff of boots and the creak of wood. It is a place of waiting objects, sacks of flour, barrels of oil, crates of apples, all resting in the cool dark, waiting to be loaded. There is a heavy, restful energy here, the feeling of a pantry stocked and secure, where the harvest of the world sits safely under a solid roof. Finally, the journey continues into the night, and you retire to your sleeping compartment. You prepare for the final ascent of the day, climbing the sleeper's ladder. In a confined cabin, the upper berth is a private loft, reachable only by a small removable ladder. Visualize the ladder, made of chrome or mahogany, with padded rungs that are soft against your feet. You climb up, hand over hand, step, step, turn. You slide into the narrow, cozy space near the ceiling. It feels like a treehouse or a secret fort. The ceiling is close, curving gently with the shape of the carriage roof. You're held in by a safety net or a wooden rail. Up here, the sensation of the train is different. You feel the sway of the carriage more fastidiously, a gentle rocking motion that is exaggerated by the height, like the top of a mast on a ship. The air is warmer. You're tucked away, invisible to the floor below. You pull the heavy wool blanket up to your chin, looking at the ceiling rivets, and feel a profound sense of being cradled. You're the highest point of the sleeper, floating above the world, rocked by the rhythmic lullaby of the tracks, ready to drift into the deepest of dreams, and as the night watchman's lantern bobs away into the labyrinth of the marshalling yard, fading like a dying star, your gaze lifts from the dark iron of the rails to the canopy of the heavens above. It is here, under the vast glittering dome of the night sky, that we encounter the ultimate observatory of the rails, the dome car. Visualize a carriage where the roof has been peeled away, replaced by a raised, curved bubble of reinforced glass. This is the Vista Dome, a greenhouse for the soul. You climb the short flight of stairs from the main aisle, emerging into this elevated sanctuary. You're sitting higher than the rest of the train, head and shoulders above the roofline. There are no walls here, only transparency. In the day, it is a sun-drenched solarium, offering a panoramic view of the canyons and the forests. But at night, it becomes a rolling planetarium. You lean back in the plush seat, looking straight up. The train lights are dimmed to prevent reflection, leaving you alone with the cosmos. You watch the moon racing through the clouds, keeping pace with the engine. You trace the constellations, Orion, Cassiopeia, the Pleiades wheeling slowly overhead. The glass is cold to the touch, a thin membrane separating you from the freezing high-altitude air, but inside you're enveloped in warmth. The silence is deeper here, the noise of the wheels muffled by the floor below. You're floating through the universe, a traveller in a glass capsule, witnessing the majesty of the galaxy while the Earth rolls rhythmically beneath you. From the transparent glass of the dome, we shift our focus to the skin of the train itself, visualizing a material that captured the spirit of the future, the stainless steel streamliner. In the 1930s, the Burlington Zephyr changed the look of the railway forever. Gone was the painted wood and the heavy black iron. In its place came the shot-welded stainless steel, fluted and polished until it shone like a mirror. Visualize this train standing on the track under the moonlight. It looks like a bolt of quicksilver, a fluid, metallic shape that seems to be moving even when it's standing still. The sides of the carriages are not flat. They are corrugated, covered in horizontal ridges that catch the light and stretch it into long, shimmering ribbons. This is the streamline modern style. Aerodynamic, sleek, and fiercely modern. Imagine running your hand along the side of the train. The metal is cool, smooth, and incredibly hard. It reflects the world around it, the green of the grass, the blue of the sky, the orange of the sunset, becoming a camouflage of speed. To ride inside a streamliner is to be encased in a silver bullet, protected by a shell that is impervious to rust and time, slicing through the wind with a silent, gleaming efficiency that feels like flight. As the silver streamliner glides into the station, your eyes are drawn away from the train to the walls of the platform, where a different kind of window awaits, the railway poster. Before the age of digital screens and photographs, the romance of travel was sold through the brushstrokes of artists. Visualize a large paper poster framed in oak, pasted against the brickwork. It is a lithograph, bold and colourful, promising a world of flat pastel perfection. The colours are vivid yet soothing, the deep azure of the Cornish Sea, the emerald green of the Yorkshire Dales, the sun-baked gold of the French Riviera. The text is elegant and minimal. Skegness is so bracing, or See America by rail. These images are portals. They do not show the grit or the smoke, they show the dream. Imagine standing on a grey, rainy platform in the city, feeling the damp chill in the air and looking into that rectangle of colour. It is a visual anchor, a promise of a destination where the sun is always shining and the sea is always calm. The artistic style, with its clean lines and block colours, evokes a sense of simplicity and order. It invites you to step out of your current reality and buy a ticket to a painted paradise, fueling your dreams with the soft, static beauty of the destination. While your eyes feast on the colours of the poster, your ears tune into the most iconic sound of the station environment, a disembodied presence that guides the flow of humanity, the station announcer. In the cavernous halls of grand terminals, the acoustics turn the human voice into something ethereal and omnipresent. Visualize the sound. It begins with a chime, bong bing bong, a melodic triad that cuts through the chatter of the crowd. Then the voice speaks. It is calm, measured, and genderless in its authority. The train now standing at platform 4. The words echo off the vaulted ceiling, overlapping slightly, creating a reverberation that sounds like a chant in a cathedral. It is a slow, rhythmic recitation of names, a geography lesson of the line. Stopping at Oxford, Leamington Spa, Banbury, and London Paddington. There is a soothing cadence to the list, a hypnotic repetition. It is the voice of the oracle, invisible but all-knowing. It requires you to stop, to tilt your head, and to listen. It is a comforting reminder that there is a plan, that the system is watching, and that you are being guided to your place in the queue by a voice that floats in the air like smoke. The echo of the announcer fades as you board the train, and soon a different, more intimate sound calls to you from the corridor, the dining car gong. In the golden age of travel, dinner was not merely a meal, it was an event announced by a musical ritual. Visualize a steward in a white jacket walking through the swaying train. In his hand, he carries a small handheld xylophone or a set of chimes. With a small mallet, he strikes the bars, ding dong ding dong. The sound is bright, metallic, and cheerful. It travels easily over the low rumble of the wheels. It is the first call for dinner. It is a sound that sparks a Pavlovian response of comfort and hunger. It signals the transition from the solitary observation of the landscape to the communal warmth of the table. You rise from your seat, smoothing your clothes, and follow the fading notes of the gong down the corridor. It is a civilized summons, a gentle musical bell that organizes the day, promising that nourishment and luxury are waiting for you just a few carriages away. But not every carriage stays with the train for the entire journey. We drift now to a forgotten marvel of railway operations, a maneuver that feels like a magic trick, the slip coach. In the days before high-speed deceleration, railways wanted to drop passengers off at intermediate stations without stopping the express train. Visualize the scene. The train is thundering along at 70 miles per hour. At the rear of the train is the slip coach. A special guard sits in the front booth of this carriage. As the train approaches the station, he engages a mechanism to disconnect the vacuum brake hoses and lifts the coupling hook. The train does not slow down. It speeds away, the gap widening a foot, a yard, a mile. The slip coach is now a free-rolling object, gliding on its own momentum. The guard uses a handbrake to gently slow the carriage, piloting it silently into the station platform while the rest of the train disappears over the horizon. It is a maneuver of silence and grace. Imagine sitting in that carriage. The roar of the engine fades away, replaced by the quiet hiss of the wheels on the rail. You drift into the station, coming to a perfect, gentle halt. It is the ultimate letting go, a peaceful detachment where you are released from the main force to find your own quiet stop. In the quiet of a long journey, where the hours stretch out like the tracks, some trains offered a sanctuary for the mind, the travelling library. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, dedicated carriages were fitted out with bookshelves, bringing literature to the line. Visualize a compartment lined with dark oak shelves, filled with leather-bound volumes. The books are held in place by wooden slats or brass bars to prevent them from tumbling when the train rounds a curve. The air smells of old paper, leather polish, and pipe smoke. You select a book, perhaps a novel, perhaps a travel guide, and sit in a winged armchair. The rhythm of the train becomes a reading metronome. You read a sentence, look out the window at a passing meadow, and read again. The vibration of the carriage shakes the pages gently in your hand. There is a profound sense of double travel here. Your body is moving across the physical landscape, while your mind is travelling through the landscape of the story. It is a cocoon of intellectual peace, where the world outside is kept at bay by the heavy spine of a good book and the steady, comforting thrum of the wheels. While the library offers comfort, Other vehicles on the line are built for stark utility and solitude. We look down the track to see a strange skeletal contraption moving under human power, the inspection velocipede. Before pickup trucks, track inspectors rode these three-wheeled cycles. Visualize a frame of lightweight wood and iron. It has two wheels on the main rail like a bicycle, and a third, smaller wheel on an outrigger arm resting on the opposite rail for balance. It looks like a mechanical water strider insect. The inspector sits on a small saddle, pumping a hand lever or pedaling with his feet. Squeak-clack, squeak-clack. You're completely exposed to the elements. You're low to the ground, feeling every joint in the rail. It is a solitary existence, riding this spider-like machine through the vast emptiness of the prairie or the dense tunnel of a forest. There is a sense of vulnerability, but also of freedom. You are the rider of the rails, physically connected to the infrastructure, moving with a slow, deliberate rhythm that allows you to inspect every inch of the steel path. From the fragile lightness of the velocipede, we expand our vision to the widest, most stable stance the railway ever took, the broad gauge. This was the dream of Isambard Kingdom Brunel, the giant of Victorian engineering. He believed that standard rails were too narrow, so he built his Great Western Railway with rails set 7 feet and a quarter inch apart. Visualize this track. It is massive. The train cars sitting upon it are wider, more spacious, like rolling ballrooms. Because of the width, the centre of gravity is lower. The train does not rock or sway. It glides. Imagine sitting in a broad gauge carriage. You can stretch your legs out, and there is still room. The ride is impossibly smooth, a sensation of floating on a magic carpet rather than rolling on wheels. It feels substantial, planted, unshakable. Although the broad gauge was eventually standardized away, the memory of it remains, a vision of a railway built without compromise, a wide open embrace of the earth that offered the most stable and peaceful journey ever conceived. Finally, the broad tracks lead us into the heart of the city, where the railway terminates not in a dark tunnel, but under a sky of glass, the train shed. This is the architectural crowning glory of the station. Visualize the roof of St Pancras in London, or Grand Central in New York. It is a single, soaring arch of iron ribs and glass panes, spanning hundreds of feet without a single column to interrupt the space. It is a man-made sky. The ironwork is painted a pale blue or a deep red, intricate and lace-like despite its strength. Sunlight filters through the dirty glass, creating shafts of God rays that illuminate the steam and the dust motes dancing in the air below. The sound of the trains is trapped and amplified, creating a white noise of escaping steam and slamming doors that fills the space like water. But despite the size, it feels protective. You're indoors, yet the scale is outdoors. The roof curves over you like a protective wing, sheltering the trains and the travellers from the rain and the snow. It is a cathedral of industry, a space that celebrates the arrival and the departure, holding the energy of the journey within its vast airy embrace. And as you lie there, cradled in the high, warm nest of the upper berth, swaying gently with the rhythm of the night, we come to the final mystery, the last secret whispered by the iron road. We descend one last time, past the windows, past the wheels, down to the very metal itself to witness the phenomenon of the singing rail. This is the most subtle and magical of all railway sensations, a secret known only to those who have truly listened. Visualize a long, straight stretch of track running through a silent desert or a deep forest. The train is miles away, invisible, a ghost beyond the horizon. The air is still. If you were to kneel beside the track and place your ear against the cold, silver skin of the rail, you would hear it. Long before the smoke is seen or the whistle is heard, the steel begins to sing. It is a low, resonant hum, a vibration that travels through the metal 15 times faster than sound travels through the air. It is the voice of the future approaching. It is a sympathetic resonance, a trembling anticipation. The rail knows the train is coming before the world does. It carries the weight and the energy of the engine across the empty miles, connecting the here with the there in an unbroken chain of atoms. It reminds us that nothing is truly separate. Even in the silence there is connection. Even when you're alone in the dark there is a vibration, a signal travelling toward you, promising arrival. The rail holds the memory of the trains that have passed, and the promise of the trains yet to come, vibrating with a timeless energy that hums beneath the surface of the earth. It is a lullaby of physics, a song of continuity that rings softly, endlessly, assuring you that the line is unbroken, the path is solid, and you are held within a network of infinite support. And now the singing of the rail begins to fade, dropping in pitch until it merges with the slow, steady beating of your own heart. The great journey is drawing to a close. The steam engine, that magnificent beast of fire and water, slows its piston breath. Chuff, chuff, sigh. The wheels, which have spun 1,000,000 times across mountains and rivers, through snow sheds and over bridges, slow their rotation. The rhythmic clickety-clack stretches out, becoming a gentle, sporadic heartbeat. Click, clack, click, clack. The train glides silently into the final station, a place of perfect velvet darkness. The brakes sigh one last time, a soft release of air that sounds like a long, contented exhalation. The motion stops, the swaying ceases, you are still. Visualize the engine cooling in the moonlight, the metal ticking softly as it rests. The lights in the carriages flicker and dim, turning from gold to a soft ember red, and then to nothing. The conductor has hung up his uniform. The signalman has lowered the arm. The station cat is asleep on the bench. The luggage is stacked. The track is clear. Everything is heavy now. Your eyelids are heavy, weighted with the comfort of the journey. The world of steel and steam, of whistles and winds, dissolves into a soft grey mist. There is no more distance to cover. There are no more tickets to punch. You have arrived at the destination you were seeking all along. The silence wraps around you like a heavy wool blanket. You're safe, you're warm, you're still. And now, 101 wonders are resting with you. Sleep now. Good night.